Sci-fi movie that was released in 1940, which was really a great surprise to me because I didn't know that we had movies going back that far. Usually when we think about classic black horror movies, we think of like Blacula, Blackenstein, at least I do. The Thing with Two Heads, I don't know if you guys remember that one, but we mostly think of things in the 70s, or the fact that the original Night of the Living Dead had a black protagonist back in the 60s. But we typically don't think as far back as the 1940s, so this was really cool to see an entirely black production, black acting, black writing, black direction. It also felt really good to see a movie with a black detective, a black lawyer, a female black doctor, all in the 1940s. This is back before a lot of women were even working. When I say a lot of women, I mean non-black women, because black women have always worked, but it was good to see a black female doctor in a movie. Hey guys, I guess I have some catching up to do since I missed the first week and a half of Black History Month. I just watched Son of Ingagi, which is a black horror sci-fi movie that was released in 1940, which was really a great surprise to me because I didn't know that we had movies going back that far. Usually when we think about classic black horror movies, we think of like Blacula, Blackenstein, at least I do. The Thing with Two Heads, I don't know if you guys remember that one, but we mostly think of things in the 70s, or the fact that the original Night of the Living Dead had a black protagonist back in the 60s. But we typically don't think as far back as the 1940s, so this was really cool to see an entirely black production, black acting, black writing, black direction. It also felt really good to see a movie with a black detective, a black lawyer, a female black doctor, all in the 1940s. This is back before a lot of women were even working. When I say a lot of women, I mean non-black women, because black women have always worked, but it was good to see a black female doctor in a movie. Speaking of the black female doctor, Dr. Helen, she was a great character because she was funny to me because she was kind of rude but also loving in the same way. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. She's actually modeled after a real life woman who was called the Witch of Wall Street. Her character was very complex to say the least, and she was a scientist. I neglected to mention that as a doctor she was also a scientist in the movie, which is why this is the earliest science fiction horror movie. The music was really nice and very surprising. They were literally rapping and singing in the 1940s, and I'm going to keep bringing up the 1940s because to me it was very surprising.
I want there's no more necking, no more patching, and no more nothing that's fun. And now, old pal, you'll soon find out that two can't live as cheap as one. So long, old pal, long goodbye. Our party makes us cry. But here's one thing you must know, that you can't run with us no more.
There were some really great directing choices, especially since the kills appear off screen. They did do things that still emphasized what happened. For example, there is a beautiful shot of ink pouring out on the floor that elegantly expresses the kill without outright showing it. I thought that was extremely creative. There's also a shot of the detective in the foreground and something else happening in the background, and the focus of the camera switches from the foreground to the background and then back to the foreground, which you don't see a lot in more recent movies, but back then, I mean, I'm seeing them more in 1930s, 40s, and 50s movies, a lot more camera work, and it seems like maybe during that time it might have been harder to even do those type of things than it is now, but maybe we're not taking advantage of technology like we should. This film also featured a fire scene, which is extremely dangerous and very difficult to do. The story was very interesting, and I credit the writer for that. There's a lot of funny scenes. It mixes well with how serious the movie is and funny at the very same time, especially a scene that involves Dr. Helen's brother and his reaction to seeing something that she created. That was hilarious, and I really didn't expect him to do that. Oh.
By the way, Zeno, did I understand you to say that you were taking some gold or something?
No. All I want to do is get out of here.
And the sandwich scene. They did this gag scene with a sandwich, and they did the gag more than once, and I laughed both times. There are maybe one or two odd edits, but due to the age of this film, I'm thinking that it's possible that part of the film might have been destroyed, because I don't believe this has been digitally remastered or preserved over time, so I think the strange edit could be attributed to just that portion of the film being damaged. This movie also shows how long certain horror tropes have been around. Literally, there was a Bob, are you there? Is that you?
Is that you, Bob?
How many times have we seen similar scenes like that in horror movies? And it goes obviously all the way back to the 1940s, possibly the 1930s. But because I'm talking about this particular movie, I'm going to say 1940s. Also, there was an angry police chief. Who knew that trope was that old? I mean, we've seen hundreds of movies where the police chief is always angry. And in the 1940s, apparently they were angry then too. This is now one of my favorite horror sci-fi movies to watch. I'm definitely going to try to find a way to add a copy of this to my collection. I highly recommend it. I was able to watch the movie because it was uploaded on YouTube. I'm thinking most likely because it might be public domain due to its age. But if you get a chance to watch it, I'll drop the link in the description of this video so that you can watch it. It really is a great film to watch, and I highly recommend it.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey guys, I just watched Lucky Ghost. I think this movie has another title. It's also known as Lady Luck. Almost forgot about that. But yes, and it stars Mantan Moreland, not to be confused with Stephen Fetchit. I know it's horrible that I confused the two of them, but you should know that Mantan Moreland worked predominantly in black films with all black casts, and he was a great comedian. He and his co-star kind of give you an Abbott and Costello type of feel, and the difference between him and Stephen Fetchit was Stephen Fetchit usually worked in white productions and was seen more as a coon. There's no other way I could put that. Anyways, I just got to see this movie, and it is like a live action cartoon, and I was laughing the whole time. It's very
And the door opened and closed all by itself. And that's the last I remember.
Brother, if I was you, I'd lay off that gin.
No, it wasn't that at all. I tell you, I've seen him and heard him with my own ears.
Boy, you sure is in a bad way. Hearing footsteps and seeing doors and talking about death.
Here he come again. Uncle Ezra? Is that you, Uncle Ezra?
Yes, Daniel, but I ain't got time to stop and talk to you now.
Give me your hand and help me up these steps. Did you hear me, Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
very slapstick. There's some really great sight gags, and the dialogue was hilarious. You have to listen very closely because it comes very rapid fire, and you might laugh and miss the next joke because you're laughing at the former joke. This movie's about two ne'er-do-wells who win some money and clothes and a car from a dice game, and then they take a trip to a sanitarium slash health resort.
Well, honey, looks like I've lost everything but you. Get your hat and coat, please. Leave it.
Ha! What do you mean, we? Baby, you're wonderful. You can handle women, screaming like you can have that.
Yeah, that's what the movie called it, a sanitarium/resort, because those are two things that definitely go together. They come face to face with some ghosts who are not happy with them. Let me see how they put it: jitterbugging, jiving, and hullabalooing.
I hear you, Gabriel. Here I come. Well, happy Judgment Day, folks.
Judgment Day nothing. That noise is coming from over there. You got a lot of time yet.
Well, what are you folks doing here then?
Waiting for Uncle Ezra.
Here I is, very exhausted.
What happened?
See, White is dancing, drinking, gambling, and cutting up just something terrible. While the place done changed hands right under my nose, and it looks like it's going to be worse than ever.
That does it. My patience is exasperated. Let's go over there and give them the works and close the place up once and forever.
You said it, sister. Come on, let's go.
This is literally what made the ghosts active, all the noise. There's a lady in this that's really talented. She can sing and dance and act, but her character is such an airhead. She's like the world's first chicken head. I mean, literally, she kept moving her head like a chicken when she talked, like literally going like this. And her hairstyle, much like this one kind of moves a lot. Hey. But hers really emphasized the chicken-like movements of her head.
You know, Miss X, I think working for you is going to be a pleasure.
Yeah. Taking away with that game.
Oh, Miss X, the funny things you say.
She sometimes reminded me of Cardi B. I mean, how overly expressive she is with her face and her eyes. Maybe she was the first Cardi B. All the women in the movie were absolutely gorgeous because they had, I guess, cigarette girls and servers as the time, called for, because this movie came out in 1942. The effects were really great, especially for the house. The house, I'd almost say the house is another character, but it's more the ghost manipulation of the house that's the third main character of the movie. And mind you, this is years before The Haunting. Fun fact, my grandmother told me she saw this movie as a child at the movie theater, and she is going to turn 90 in a couple months. I could see this movie being remade with Mike Epps and maybe Tracy Morgan. I would say Kevin Hart, but I really can't stand Kevin Hart. I know I might be in a minority, but he irritates my life and I just don't find him funny. But knowing Hollywood, they probably remake this movie with The Rock and Kevin Hart, and then it would really be some crap. So perish the thought. Forget I even said that. I don't even want to speak that into existence. Never mind. But yes, this is another excellent movie. These two movies go really great together, especially to start off my Black History Month horror movie and sci-fi movie extravaganza. That's what I'm going to call it. I like that. I just came up with that. I hope you like that. Anyways, like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. So let me know what you thought about this movie. I'll put the link to it in the description because this is also available on YouTube. It might also be public domain. I don't know. If I can try to find it on DVD, I would like to have this in my collection as well. Hey guys, I just finished watching Night of the Cobra Woman, starring Marlena Clark, famous for The Beast Must Die and also Ganja and Hess, but she actually did this movie, Night of the Cobra Woman, before that, and also a movie called Black Mamba, which I wanted to pair with this movie, but I could not find any place to watch Black Mamba. I can't even find it to buy it off of Amazon, so that's why this is being reviewed by itself.
Night of the Cobra Woman. Venom in her veins and lust in her eyes. Only the Cobra could satisfy her unearthly desires. The most terrifying picture you will ever see. Night of the Cobra Woman. From New World Pictures.
This movie is actually a weird little gem. It's shot fully in the Philippines and has some really beautiful scenery, both out in the countryside and also in the city. The story gets to be pretty interesting. It doesn't start out that way, but as the movie progresses, the story becomes more interesting. It dragged in some parts, like every time the girlfriend was on screen, that poor girl could not act her way out of a paper bag, and it was really irritating seeing her. The movie soundtrack runs the gamut from decent to ridiculously inappropriate. The dialogue is the same. It's decent in one moment, and then it's horrifically bad the next.
As long as I'm alive, you'll feed off my venom and stay young.
But I don't want to change.
Of course, if you want to escape from me, you still can. If you dare.
The effects were pretty good. I like how simple the transformation scenes were. If I entertained you, made you smile, or helped you pass the time, please consider supporting this channel so that I can do that more. Horror channels often get suppressed and demonetized, but you can help in 3 ways: by pledging a monthly contribution on Patreon, sending a one-time tip using your preferred financial app, or you could help for free by liking and commenting for the algorithm, and most importantly, sharing this video on your social media. Thank you so much. I also like there's a specific scene where a character actually sheds their skin like a snake, and I thought that was done very well. The ending sucked kind of badly though, in my opinion. I feel like they ran out of steam, maybe ran out of story, and just made the movie stop more so than end. But Marlene Clark looked absolutely beautiful in it. She does a great job, and she's really a scream queen that should be noted in history. If you're a Marlene Clark fan, I'm gonna put the link of a video that I stumbled upon when I was looking into this film. The video was done by My Final Girl, and I believe she did an awesome job of talking about Marlene Clark and also some of her movie roles. And within the video, she even gets to interview Marlene Clark. So definitely check out that video. I will put the link in the description. It's really well done. It's a shame that it took me a year to find it because I believe it was published sometime last year, but it really is a great video about Marlene Clark and also about Night of the Cobra Woman. Some really weird stuff happened on that set that actually ties into a conversation that's happening right now amongst actors and actresses regarding how they're treated on set and what some directors will do to them. So definitely check that out if you are interested in more behind the scenes type information. I believe someone uploaded Night of the Cobra Woman to YouTube, and that's how I was able to watch it. I will put the link to the full film also in the description of this, so if you get a chance, definitely check it out, if for nothing else but the transformation scenes and also Marlene Clark. I would also add, just to see the Philippines as well. In modern day movies, I don't think we get to see it too much, but there were a lot of movies filmed in the Philippines back in the 70s and 80s, so it's definitely worth checking out. Like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Check it out for yourself, and if you have seen this movie, please let me know in the comment section what you thought about it.
Defanging a snake is like castrating a man.
The most terrifying picture you will ever see. Night of the Cobra Woman.
Hey guys, I just watched Blacula. Blacula stars William Marshall and is an iconic black horror film. If you don't know, now you know. This movie starts out with racism. Literally, Count Dracula is super racist and supports slavery, and he wants to buy the main character's wife. Total F-boy status. He then bites our main protagonist and locks him in the crypt with his wife and decrees that he shall be known as Blacula.
Shall pay, Black Prince. I press you with my name. You shall be Blacula. Blacula.
Oh, by the way, he locks the wife up in the crypt so that when Blacula arises, she will be his first victim, which is pretty messed up. Cut to current day, 1972 in this case, and a gay couple is buying items from an estate sale from Dracula's castle, but they don't know it's Dracula's castle. They just know, oh, it's, you know, some Eastern European stuff that we're getting on discount, and our party is going to be awesome. Pretty much is what their thought process is. However, one of the items they buy is a coffin containing you-know-who. Let me first say, I appreciate that there is a gay couple in this movie, all the way back in 1972, and one of them even has a purse. This is long before Tinky Winky or Uzi Vert. I was just thinking, wow, this is more progressive than some current day movies. And before I even finished having that thought, they had them act extremely in a stereotypical fashion, and other characters kept referring to him by the F word. So I'm like, one step forward, 2 steps back. But alas, this is a product of its time, so I have to look at it that way. That's how I approach it. It's like watching those movies from the 30s and the 40s, especially there's one where a man is highly annoyed by a woman and he takes a grapefruit and smashes it in her face. I know you've seen the scene before, but do you know what movie it's from? It is from Public Enemy, and I believe it starred James Cagney. But it's a product of its time. Nowadays, you would not see a woman treated that way in film, but in the 1930s, oh yeah. And same thing applies to how they treated gay people in this movie. They're included, they're shown somewhat in a positive light, and then shown other people having a negative reaction to them. So, like I said, it's a product of its time. Anyway, there's a doctor who is a part of the Scientific Investigations Unit. that sounds legit, who is investigating some mysterious deaths. I almost forgot to mention, when Blacula arises, he sees a woman that he thinks is his wife. Most likely she's a descendant or a relative of some type, or just a double, because they say everyone has a double in the world. But either way, he sees this woman, she looks exactly like his wife, he thinks she's his wife. So there's the basis of the movie without spoiling too much. And I know you might think, oh, this movie's over 40 or 45 years old, why would you not spoil it? Because you might be a 14-year-old stumbling upon my video, why should I spoil the movie for you? You should be able to enjoy the movie. The acting in the movie is pretty good. The stunt scenes are decent as far as the fight coordination. As long as you don't notice the continuity errors, like for instance, there's one scene where a woman is walking down the block and the close-up scenes, she has no hood on. In the faraway scenes, her hood is up, but you know, 70s. The effects aren't anything to really write home about. They're mostly pretty pedestrian, except for there's one effect that's done pretty well when a vampire is exposed to sunlight and it shows what happens to the vampire. That was done pretty well. The story is pretty straightforward and the direction was very solid in my opinion, especially since they didn't have a huge budget for this. While we were watching this, my mother walked in the door and she looked right at TV and said, "Really, Blacula?" And it wasn't any of the scenes that showed the title character. The fact that she knew the movie from just any random scene, just out of the blue. I should have asked her, did she go to see it at the drive-in or something, because she would have been 16 or 17 years old then. But then again, she's the reason why I know about this movie, because she had the VHS tape of Scream, Blacula Scream in her collection. At one point, my mother had 800 sci-fi and horror movies in her VHS collection. For some reason, I should ask her, why does she have Scream, Blacula Scream, which is the sequel to Blacula, but not Blacula? I'll have to ask her that. Or it could have been my dad's movie. Don't know. Speaking of the sequel, I may or may not review it. Depends on how much time I have. I want to do a lot of first time movies. The only sequels I'm definitely going to be doing is the Candyman series and the Blade series. I'm definitely doing those. If I have time, I'll come back and do Scream, Blacula Scream. But I definitely recommend this movie. It, to me, like I said, is iconic. It's something that if you're interested in Black history, especially Black film history, Black horror history, you have to watch this. Of course, you don't have to do anything but stay black and die. Oh, and pay your taxes. You have to do that too.
The Black Avenger, Blacula, from American International Pictures.
The good news is you're a vampire with super strength and eternal life. The bad news is when you have on your flyest fit, you can't even see yourself in the mirror.
What's going on, man? I can't see myself. Hey, look here, man. You mean to tell me I ain't never gonna see my face again?
And Driving Mutants, I'm Lady Shasha, Mistress of the Snark. And today we're going back to the 70s to talk about Scream, Blacula Scream, the sequel to the 1972 classic Blacula, starring the amazing William Marshall and the iconic Pam Grier. In case you're wondering, yes, I have already reviewed Blacula and its spiritual successor, Vampire in Brooklyn. This starts with the passing of an elder who died without a will, which leads to an argument about who her rightful heir is. Roller Set Brother is big mad because he feels he's the rightful heir. His name is Willis, and he's played by Richard Lawson.
You telling me that she didn't name a successor? Then it's mine. I'm a son. The lower goes to me.
I'm sorry, Willis, but that's not so.
She had to name someone, and she didn't. So now it goes to a vote. Bullshit. The leadership goes to me.
Can't this kind of talk wait for another day?
It belongs to me, you hear? It's mine.
So he goes to see another elder to seek power. The elder gives him instructions and warns him about what he's doing.
Must be careful, for this is power beyond all common man. I ain't afraid of no power.
But he wants power so desperately he ignores the warning and goes on ahead and plays with some summoning spells without fully knowing what he's doing. This movie gets to the fuck around and find out part early. He messed around and ended up summoning Blacula, who of course bites him and turns him into a vampire. There's a great scene when Willis finds out that he can't see his own reflection.
Do I do? Hey, what's this, man? What's going on, man? I
can't see myself. You got something to do with this, man?
I'm afraid that's one of the misfortunes of the cursed.
Oh, man, you jiving. Hey, look here, man. You mean to tell me I ain't never gonna see my face again? Hey, look, man, I don't mind being a vampire and all that shit, but this really ain't him. I mean, a man has got to see his face.
Later, Prince Mamuwalde attends a party where Justin is showing off his collection of African antiquities that he'll be donating to a museum. This is where Prince Mamuwalde meets Lisa, played of course by Pam Grier.
The Niger dynasty produced so many fine artifacts.
Ibani.
I beg your pardon?
The necklace is of the Ibani dynasty.
We appreciate your concern, sir, but I believe you're mistaken.
Hardly. It was fashioned in 1755. This necklace was worn by the Princess Luva. Do you have the matching necklace?
I love how she breaks down voodoo's origins. She does this in a way that's respectful.
I've been informed that you have exceptional powers in the exceedingly complex science of voodoo.
Science? I never thought of it that way. To us, voodoo is simply a religion based on faith. A powerful, powerful faith.
And not the hackneyed way that many Hollywood movies are known to do. The Exodus Believer, I'm looking at you with that half-assed depiction of a roots worker. Scenes like this is why I do not consider Blacula nor Scream Blacula Scream blaxploitation movies. I consider them the opposite of exploitive. I mean, check out this scene with these pimps.
I said, do you want some company? Get it.
Hey, man, with threads like that, it figures you've got to be loaded, right? So, why don't you pass some this way, brother? Hey, we're talking to you.
What is it you want?
What is it you want? Shit.
Your bread, man, all of it. Are we gonna have to become antisocial and kick your ass? You dig?
I'm sorry, I don't have any bread with me. And as for kicking my ass, I strongly recommend that you give it careful consideration before trying.
You jive, mother. Either you give it up or we're gonna take it out on your black ass.
You made a slave of your sister. You're still slaves, imitating your slave masters.
Hey, sucker.
Now see, that could have been written in an exploitive way considering the subject matter, but instead it's written in a more empowered way. That's what I like. By the way, did you peep the Miles Davis and Nina Simone posters that Prince Mamuwalde stopped to look at? Anyway, Prince Mamuwalde bites hella people, and Willis bites about 2, which is still fun to see, but I'm not going to spoil this whole movie for you. What I will say is that I did enjoy Prince Mamuwalde's reasoning for why he needed Lisa to help him. It was actually a pretty good reason. Lisa does try to help him at his request. The climax of this movie is so suspenseful. Lisa is having a race against time. Meanwhile, there's vampires nearby attacking, ratcheting up the tension. The score during this becomes increasingly frenetic. This is still a great looking movie. Great sets, great locations, the color palette, and the clothes. The clothes in this movie are pretty iconic. It's like a snapshot of the early 70s. Again, William Marshall as Prince Mamuwalde brings so much gravitas to his portrayal of Blacula. This is a classic vampire horror movie. If you're a vampire fan, I recommend you check this out. If you're a 70s horror fan, it's a must-see. At the time of this review, Scream Blacula Scream was available on Pluto TV, Tubi, AMC Plus, and Amazon Prime. But like I always say, watch it for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. And just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Have you seen Blacula or Scream Blacula Scream? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.
Listen, buddy, we got a warrant. You know what a warrant is? Now you stay out of this, or I'll lock your uppity black ass up for...
Scream, Blacula, Scream. The bloodiest legend of our time.
Hey guys, I just watched Blackenstein and I really think this movie is named wrong. I would have named it Franken-Negro. No, seriously. Frankenstein is the name of the scientist, and of course the monster is called Frankenstein's monster. Therefore, in this movie, Frankenstein, if he's Blackenstein, should be played by a black actor, but instead it's a white actor, and the monster is played by a black actor, so the title actually is incorrect.
Dr. Stein would like to see you in his laboratory.
Now, this is kind of your run-of-the-mill blaxploitation horror movie, but there's one actor that stood out. It was like he was trying to get an Oscar off of this movie and didn't quite realize what movie he was in. It was the guy who played the nurse orderly type person who went off on this whole monologue about how he was unable to join the military because of a heart murmur, and so he's going off on this patient who has recently lost their arms and legs in the war, and he's really overacting.
I think I got time to be running upstairs and around and all over just because one of you guys wants special attention? What the hell's so special about you just because you're laying there, huh? The hell? You know, they called me, the service too. I went down there, it was 45 inches, 17 and a quarter, 28-inch waist. I walked down there like this, and, you know, night before, I was going down for induction. My gang, they all throw me a party, and they gave me some great gifts, you know, little shaving things, and little portable type of radios and stuff like that. And I said, hey, gang, I love you. Thanks a lot. I really love you. I'm going to be one of those marching soldiers. I get down there, and I get rejected. They don't take me to the old ticket, weightlifting and athletics. Just made my heart, gave it a little murmur, so I had to go back to all these people. I said goodbye to the other night. Oh, what the hell am I even telling you this for? Big deal, you laying there. You know, it's my taxes, my friends' taxes are going to keep you there. We got to take care of you. Big deal. What the hell did you go for? You didn't have to go. You know, that old scam. Patriotism, huh? Yeah, I can see it now. The bands are playing and the drums are rolling and the drum blowing the bugles and all. I blow it out you. The hell you? Why don't you take a look at yourself, huh? You look like a creep laying there looking up at me with those stupid eyes of yours. The hell do you know? I'll close those eyes. It's time for your shot, buddy. Nice big needle. Just relax.
The biggest problem with the monologue is that he's bitching to a man who just lost his arms and legs about not being able to enter the military, and I'm sitting here thinking, would you like to switch places with him? I mean, you're lucky that you didn't have to go through or endure what this character is going through. The scientist in this movie that creates the Blackenstein is named Dr. Stein. We do get to see some of his other experiments that are a little bit Island of Dr. Moreau-ish to me, and I thought that was kind of cool. They do make some changes. In this story, instead of exploring reanimating tissue, it explores more DNA serums and the transplantation of limbs. His experiment unfortunately goes awry when a jealous lab assistant switches serums on him. I would like you to know that the serum did make his afro grow hella fast, and I would like that serum. I definitely need a bottle of that. I love how so many black horror movies from the 70s come to a complete stop to just have a musical number in the middle of them. And in this one, it was not only just a musical number, but also a comedy number. I appreciate these things. I think we should bring those back in the movie. Another cool thing about this movie is that the monster does not like rapists. He kills 2 or 3 potential attempted rapists during the course of the movie. I thought that was pretty cool. He kills a few other people, and then towards the end of the movie he kidnaps this lady for some reason. I don't know why, when he generally killed everyone else on sight, but he kidnaps her for a while and then kills her later. That didn't make sense, but I guess it made for an interesting plot point. Like I said, for the most part, except for the orderly nurse guy, the acting was pretty good. The plot is pretty thin, but everyone knows the story of Frankenstein's monster, so you didn't need to add too much to that. The ending on this was pretty bad too. I was sitting there watching it like, really? That's how you're gonna end this? Dogs? Just out of nowhere. A couple Dobermans. And then that's it. That's the end of the movie. Dobermans. I don't want to completely spoil you to let you know what the Dobermans did, but it was just so out of left field and it didn't make any sense at all, but I guess it's okay. It was at least creative. The effects for the most part weren't all that great. They weren't perfectly bad either. I would say the aftermath of the kills were done all right, but the actual makeup on the Blackenstein's monster was kind of lackluster. So, you know, it is what it is. It's a low budget blaxploitation movie. You can't have super high expectations for what the makeup effects are going to be. That's not the reason why you watch these movies. At least that's not the reason why I watch these movies. Anyways, definitely check out Blackenstein, aka Franken-Negro. If you've seen Blackenstein, let me know what your experience of it was in the comments. Hey guys, I just watched Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, which stars Bernie Casey, who I know from Revenge of the Nerds. That's a shame that I know him from Revenge of the Nerds and not from 70s movies, but that was my first experience of seeing him as the leader of the Lambdas that allowed the nerds to have a chapter on whatever fictional campus they were on. In the movie, Bernie Casey plays Dr. Henry Pride, not Dr. Black as the title would have you assume. Rather than me just describe it to you, I'm going to tell you what the plot summary says when you search for this movie. It reads as follows. When a scientist develops a formula to regenerate dying liver cells, it accidentally turns him into an albino vampire with a taste for prostitutes. As soon as I read that, I said, I'm in. Less than 10 minutes into the movie, I'm like, why is this girl sitting here with her boobs out?
Casey is Dr. Black.
Hiya, Doc.
Don't give him no sass or he'll kick your ass. Jump back, Jack, for your skull is cracked. The barflies are trying, but their bodies keep flying. The dude stood tall till his butt hit the wall. When the boys go rushing, Mr. Hyde starts crushing. The crowd is hushing as the blood comes gushing. Just stand there like a bunch of dumbasses. Get in!
At some point, he volunteers at a neighborhood free clinic and thrift store. Yes, those two things go together. And apparently it's in Watts, because it says Watts at the top of the sign. She's sitting there with her boobs out, and dialogue between her and the doctor is hilarious, especially when she is pretty much reading him and telling him how he doesn't know anything about the ghetto or the black experience. What's funniest is when she starts reading him, he looks at her and says, "Nigga, please."
No, I don't want to sound like I'm preaching. But obviously, prostitution is not the healthiest job to have. You have pain there. Not to mention what it does for you psychologically.
Oh, the good doctor again, trying to save my soul.
You know, you are intelligent and beautiful, and there's so many things you can do.
You mean like a maid in some tacky hotel cleaning toilets? Thanks, but no thanks. I like what I'm doing.
That's such a cop-out.
Oh, what do you know about it, Mr. Big Shot Doctor? You're the cop-out. The only time you're ever around black people is when you're down here clearing your conscience.
Oh, nigga, please.
I died. I was not expecting that. There's also a pimp named Silky in this movie that's also a junkie. So I'm just letting you know what type of film you're in for. Now, I've seen both the 1931 and the 1941 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movies. And I almost forgot that in the original, they pronounced his name Jekyll. It was Dr. Jekyll. And then for some reason over the years, it's now Jekyll. I forget which one it was, either the 1931 or the 1941 version. There's like this shot of a prostitute with her leg swinging back and forth off the bed. And what's funny is in this movie, there's a shot, I think they're in a bar, a couple prostitutes in a bar, and the camera does kind of zoom in on the girl sitting on a bar stool with her legs swinging back and forth, and I thought that was a nice little Easter egg and a callback to the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This was actually a pretty cool update, or updated version as far as the 70s. Now I guess it's not up to date anymore since it's from the 70s, but as compared to the 1931 version, it's up to date, and it's a really good take on the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character. The ending was a little Frankenstein meets King Kong-ish for my taste. I wish they would have kept it a little bit more faithful to the original story. The acting was really good for it to be a low-budget horror film. One of my favorite scenes is when the prostitute is reading Dr. Pride, but there's a lot of great dialogue throughout the movie. In a lesser film that dialogue would have come off as campy, but she really sold it. The score was pretty interesting. At times there was a synth score that would remind you of a John Carpenter movie, kind of like They Live, and then other times it had the same type of funky 70s music that is present in a lot of 70s films. So some of the soundtrack, I would say, is a little bit ahead of its time. The makeup has a great shape to it. The prosthetics used to create Dr. Hyde's look, I feel, were very well done. The weak part of it was in the coloring. I don't feel that he looked like an albino. He just looked greenish gray. Interesting thing is Stan Winston did the makeup for this movie, and this must have been one of his earlier works because we know him from Aliens and Terminator, and hold on, I think there's a lot more. I took down note. He did effects for Aliens, a couple of the Friday the 13th movies, John Carpenter's The Thing, Terminator 2, Jurassic Park, Monster Squad, Predator 1 and 2, and a TV movie that scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, and that's Gargoyles. He has dozens of makeup effects credits, and this is one of his first. Like I said, the prosthetics were good, but the coloring wasn't so great, but everyone has to start somewhere. Obviously, he improved. I really got to get around to watching the Tony Todd version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I know there's probably another dozen different versions of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I'm really only interested in the Tony Todd version. I would definitely check this out if you get the chance. I found it streaming on Roku. Can't remember which channel it was on, but if you do a broad search on Roku, you'll be able to find it. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. Just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Have you seen Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments.
There's a heel behind the wheel when Hyde takes his ride. No man can survive when he shifts into drive. It ain't no jive trying to stay alive. Silky won't revive from his final nosedive.
Brother man, this situation is rapidly becoming insalubrious, meaning we about to stomp a mud hole in your ass.
From the first verse to the last fly, it's Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, starring Bernie Casey, Rosalind Cash, Stu Gillum, directed by William Blacula Crane. Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde.
Hey guys, I just watched Alabama's Ghost. Sort of. Don't know what the hell I watched. This movie actually starts out with a song about Alabama's Ghost, and once you hear it, it's hard to get that song out of your head. This movie's about a guy who, I guess he was a janitor, and he found these old clothes that belonged to a magician, and when he puts these clothes on, he has the powers of that magician. And the guy's name actually is Alabama.
Alabama's Ghost, a satanic journey into the depths of black magic, the summit of human effort, king of the cosmos, introducing the world's greatest magician, Alabama, king of the cosmos.
He's having fun doing these magic trips, and he becomes extremely successful, at which point the ghost appears to him and tells him, hey, you better stop putting on my clothes and doing tricks with my stuff, because A, the ghost is racist, and B, he just wants him to stop. The rest of the movie is very what the fuck. Like, things just happen just to happen, and there's an elephant. I do like his first response when he does encounter the ghost. He jumps out the second story window and he runs down the block yelling, "Mama, Daddy, Mama, Daddy, Mama, Daddy." Ran down the block yelling, "Mama, Daddy, Mama." I thought that was the funniest thing that I've seen in this entire movie. The fact that he jumped out the second story window, that's pretty realistic. Another funny thing about it was his mother is played by a woman who looks basically the exact same age as him. Like, I'm looking at this woman like, did you have him at 2 years old? And what they had the nerve to do is they just sprayed her hair with that Halloween spray that you spray to make your hair look like you have gray hair. They really did that and put her in this movie. There's a lot of unusual camera shots in this movie. Some shots were really close for no reason. Some shots were tilted. I could tell they were trying to be really creative, and they were trying to kind of make it feel a little bit psychedelic, but I felt bored by it. It was sad to say. Usually I like things that are really weird, but this I didn't find to be as entertaining. Maybe I should have started drinking and then watched it. This is one of those movies that's probably better the more alcohol you consume while watching it. Anyways, check out Alabama's Ghost for yourself. I watched it on YouTube. I'll put the link in the description. It's been up for a couple years, so I suppose it's alright for it to be out. If you've seen Alabama's Ghost, let me know what you thought of it. Do you like the weirdness of it? Did you not like the weirdness of it? Let me know in the comments.
Alabama's Ghost.
Hey guys, I just watched Abby, which is becoming one of my favorite black horror movies. This is about my second or third. No, this is my third time watching Abby. And it gets better every time I watch it. I love when she becomes possessed and starts talking all the crap that she talks. This movie.
This was Abby. This was Abby. A woman loved and in love until that night when something evil came looking for a soul to possess. Was this Abby? Now the fun starts.
Grab her! Hold her! Hear me, demon! Leave this woman's body!
Abby, rated R.
This movie actually starts off more deep than campy, with a professor who's also a preacher talking to his students about African orishas and deities, and specifically the god Eshu. And this professor is played by William Marshall, which we know from Blacula, and also, as my brother recently told me, from Star Trek. The students wish him well on his archaeological sabbatical in Nigeria. His son is also a pastor and has a wife, and they're moving into a new home. It's his wife, Abby, who eventually becomes possessed, and of course he has to call on help from his father with the whole situation. In this movie, the steps go kind of fast from infestation to possession. Some movies, they take a while to show little things going wrong in the home before the person fully becomes possessed, but in this, I think she becomes possessed within like the first 20 minutes of the movie. Despite it happening so early, there definitely is enough character developed for you to care about Abby. The effects are pretty decent. There is a vomit effect that goes as well as any other vomit effect. There's some effects of things moving around a room, doors slamming by themselves, those type of haunted house possession films effects that are done just as well in this movie as were done in Poltergeist or The Conjuring, in my opinion. There isn't a lot of gore in this movie, but what little they do, they sell pretty well. There's an effect of cutting an arm that looks pretty real, except for the coloring of the skin was just slightly off, but it was still well done. There's the effect of a quick glimpse of the demon's face, which is, the effect itself is good, but the design of the demon's face is just comme ci comme ça. Abby's possessed look was pretty good, I think because of the subtlety of it. I feel like it's scarier when you just change little minute things, like changing the size of the irises in the eye. That always looks a little bit freaky when they're just the wrong size. Also, the coloring of the eyes, when it's a non-natural looking color to the eyes, that is creepier than doing a full-on, you know, let me make you look like a demon thing. Another great touch was her teeth. There was a small change in how her teeth looked. Her demonic voice, though, it kept on reminding me of Freddy Krueger, and although I know this movie came out more than a decade before Nightmare on Elm Street, having seen Nightmare on Elm Street first before seeing Abby, I kept on hearing Freddy Krueger's voice, and that kind of made it less scary. Abby's possession, though, is off the chain. There's a scene where her husband comes in the room and he's all excited. He thinks he's gonna get some tonight, and she promptly kicks him in the dick. And I was just like, every time it happens, I laugh. And I know it's not funny, but it is funny, but it's not funny, but it is funny. Also, the Bible study that she hosted was funny as hell. And when I mean funny, I mean the things that she says. If you've seen The Exorcist, you know how The Exorcist and the Demon says a lot of off-the-wall stuff. And Abby does the same thing. Like, demons like to talk shit.
Was this Abby?
I'm gonna take old Long George upstairs and fuck the shit out of him.
Just so you know, demons will say some crazy shit because they're demons. The soundtrack was minimal, but I enjoyed it. There was some, you know, funky 70s music, especially in the bar scenes when Abby went to the bar. I liked how in some scenes they didn't use any soundtrack music at all, no score at all, and I thought that was effective. And then the final showdown between the demon and the professor was really good. I especially liked how they used, I don't know whether I should call it religion or more belief system, but I like how they intertwine African belief system with some, I guess, Judeo-Christian belief system in there. I thought that was kind of cool. Abby is definitely a classic, and I'm surprised, you know how in the 70s they have, you know, these names, Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, Blackenstein, Blacula. I'm surprised they didn't call it Black Exorcist, but instead they called it Abby, so I give it points just for that alone. But, like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. Just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Have you seen Abby? What did you think of it? Let me know in a comment.
Abby, rated R.
I've been told about this movie many times by horror aficionados. Oh, you gotta see Ganja and Hess. You gotta see Ganja and Hess. Okay. This stars Dwayne Green of Night of the Living Dead fame, and of course the beautiful Marlene Clark from Night of the Cobra Woman, Black Mamba, and The Beast Must Die. She plays Ganja. The plot synopsis of this film reads as follows. After being stabbed by a dagger from Mirtha, a doctor's assistant develops a thirst for blood. This movie is so trippy and weird. And it's also very dialogue heavy, but for me, a lot of the dialogue doesn't exactly make sense. For example, there's a part of the movie where Hess has a soliloquy, and in this soliloquy he says, and I'm just going to have to read it too because there's no way I'm going to be able to memorize this whole thing. To the black male child, philosophy is a prison. It disregards the uncustomary things about you. The result of individual thought is applicable only to itself. There's a dreadful need in man to teach. It destroys the pure instinct to learn. The navigator learns from the stars. The stars teach nothing. The sun opens the mind and sheds light on the flowers. The eyes shame the pages of any book. Gesture destroys concept. Involvement mortifies vanity. If you are the despised of the earth, that is as if you were water in the desert. To be adored on this planet is to be a symbol of success, and you must not succeed on any terms, because life is endless. You are as nameless as a flower. You are the child of Venus, and her natural affection is lust. She will touch your belly with her tongue, but you must not suffer in it, for love is all there is, and you are cannon fodder in its defense. What does that mean? Not a damn thing. As my freshman composition teacher, Mr. English, and yeah, he was a teacher whose name was Mr. English, and he actually taught English. He would say, "You've said a lot of nothing beautifully." Each line contradicts itself. For example, the navigator learns from the stars. The stars teach nothing. So how does the navigator learn from the stars if the stars teach nothing? You know this is bullshit. Stuff like that reminds me of that Damon Wayans character from In Living Color. The guy that went to prison and he learned all these big words but doesn't know how to use them in context. This movie sounds like it was written by that type of individual. But people who like to pretend to be smart will sit there and try to convince you that any of that shit made sense, and it did not. This movie kind of makes me feel like someone decided to drop acid and then make a movie. Random question, who brushes their teeth in the bathtub? That is so nasty. Like, he was literally picking up the water that he's sitting his funky ass in and putting it in his mouth to rinse his mouth. That was just... whose man's is this? And again with the bright red blood, but this time it's the consistency of fruit punch, and I don't even... why would you do that? Why would you do that? The score from this movie gave me anxiety, irritated me, gave me a headache. It would have been alright if it was just the African style chanting, but behind the chanting was also this loud buzzing noise. I actually wondered if they used that frequency that I guess I remember reading one time that the military can use certain frequencies to make people feel a certain way, whether it's anxiety, like there's even a frequency that makes people vomit or have explosive diarrhea. But I was wondering if they embedded a frequency that makes you feel irritated when you hear it, or a frequency that's meant to induce feelings of unease. You can really tell that this filmmaker thought that they were coming off being hella revolutionary, but it comes off more pretentious than anything else. Like when you go to an art gallery and you look at a piece of artwork and the artist is standing next to it talking to you about how he was delving into the recesses of his mind to express the perils of a dystopian university system or some such nonsense, but you look at the canvas and it's just a blank canvas with a dot on it, and you're like, this dot means nothing to me. Or paint splatters. Oh, don't you love those? There's people who do paint splatter work and then try to convince you that the shit means something. Maybe it's just me. I'm not into abstract art like that. I feel like if I could put paint on a cat's tail and throw it at a piece of paper and come up with the same thing that you worked on, how is it art again? I know some people probably gonna be mad at me about that. Whatever, it is what it is. But this is why I can never become a professional artist. I mean, I have the ability to do art. I can draw and paint and sculpt and all different styles, from oil painting to drawing anime, but I can't stand next to it and come up with some bull about why I did it. When I do a piece of artwork, it is, oh, I pictured this in my head, I put it on paper, or I sculpted it out. The end. I woke up that morning, I felt like drawing this. The end. I don't have some lofty story behind my artwork. I just make something because I felt like making it. And this is why I can never be a professional artist. I can't stand up in a gallery all day and make up some bullshit. People will be walking up to me, so, what does this piece mean to you? It means I had some paint and some canvas and I felt like doing it. And if you want, you could pay me for it. That doesn't work in the art world. You have to have a real serious line of bullshit. I can't do it. That being said, I didn't entirely dislike this movie. I'm not saying I dislike it at all. I'm just pointing out the pretentiousness in it. And I feel like when people say that they like Ganja and Hess, they're just trying to be pretentious, just trying to be hoity-toity, like, oh, look how refined my tastes are in movies. I love Ganja and Hess. It's like, yeah, and they kind of remind me of those people that out of nowhere want to make sure you know that they don't own a television. I don't even own a television. So the what? You must be very interesting. But anyways, this is basically an art house vampire flick. Scenes for the movie. Let's talk about some scenes from the movie. I really was envious of their brunch or breakfast out on the veranda. That always looks so nice to me. And even though I live in Florida and you would think that this is something that we can do here because we have a very warm climate, not so much because of all the dang mosquitoes and humidity. You can only really do that maybe in the middle of the winter time. You can sit outside and eat. Otherwise, screened in patios is your best bet. Unless you treat your yard with near toxic levels of pesticides. The elevator in the bedroom, that was really cool. Marlene Clark looks gorgeous as Ganja. She could have held the door open and helped to do with the groceries though. Rude. This film is shot so beautifully at times. Other times the shots range from experimental to weird just for the sake of weirdness. But it's still weirdly beautiful all the same. Speaking of beautiful shots, I thought the sex scenes were very interesting, and one of the most beautiful shots in the film comes from a sex scene where, this is going to sound horrific to people who haven't watched it, but bear with me. There's a scene where they're basically covered in blood, but the blood is sparkling and glistening on their bodies, and there's something very beautiful about how that is shot. Glitter blood. I feel the same way about this movie as I do Eraserhead. They're both beautifully shot in their own ways. They take a simple story and try to overcomplicate it just for the sake of feeling like they're deeper than the average film. And there's a place for both of them within genre films. I can't knock them for being interesting. I prefer that than cookie cutter paint by numbers, you know, big Hollywood movies that they give us. I will always choose someone trying to be different and creative over someone just reproducing the same garbage over and over again. So I'm never going to fully diss either one of these films. This was written and directed by Bill Gunn. I think he does a much more phenomenal job as a director than he does as a writer, as far as the technical aspects go. His writing is the weak part. His script kind of eventually just completely runs out of steam, and then there's this big church scene that goes on for way too long, and it's supposed to be about Hess being redeemed or getting saved, and in this film, getting saved functions as him being able to give up his vampirism, because that makes complete sense. If you're a vampire, just go to church and you won't be a vampire anymore. But the thing about the church scenes is also, it's like they ran out of budget, and it doesn't even look like they use the same cameras for the church scenes. The resolution of the movie is also interesting. While Hess is struggling to end his vampirism, Ganja is like, I'm cool with being a vampire. I'm just going to stay a vampire. Now, when I talked about how beautifully shot this movie is, let me also talk about the ending of the movie. I'll just have to label this as a spoiler review because it's hard to talk about this movie without talking about that. There's a beautiful shot at the end of this movie of this green grass in the foreground and water towards the background, and you see someone rising up out of the water, and it just looks gorgeous. And then it's revealed that it's Hess rising out of the water, and he's completely naked running towards the camera. Then it cuts to Ganja up in the window. Then it cuts to a children's choir The movie ends. I'm gonna have to look up some film analysis because I am truly at a loss at what any of that means. I don't know if this is required viewing in film school, but I believe that it should be, both as a study on what to do and what not to do. What to do as a director and as a cinematographer, what not to do as a writer. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. What say you about Ganja and Hess? Is this a classic film that's just way over my head that I don't get? Or is this a classic film that I enjoy but I feel is pretentious in every way possible? If you've seen this movie, let me know what your thoughts are about it in the comments. Also, if you've stumbled across any deep, in-depth analysis of the movie, please drop a link in the comments because I am interested in finding out what the director was trying to say. Let's talk about Sugar Hill. This is another one of my gotta watch it at least once a year horror movies. And that's one of the reasons why, because of the shit talking and the extreme racism present in the movie. The plot synopsis reads as follows. When her boyfriend is murdered by gangsters, Sugar Hill decides not to get mad, but bad. She entreats Voodoo Queen Mama Matrice to call on Baron Samedi, Lord of the Dead, for help with a gruesome revenge. In exchange for Sugar's soul, the Dark Master raises up a zombie army to do her bidding. The bad guys who think they got away clean are about to find out they're dead wrong. Sounds like a winner to me. Let's talk about the Baron Samedi character. I really like how they used this character because I feel like he's really underused. I think we've seen Baron Samedi only well, in my experience, I think they used him in American Horror Story, Coven, The Princess and the Frog. There's a Baron Samedi character, and also I don't know if you guys remember this VHS game that was out back in the 90s. It was called Nightmare, and you would put the VHS tape in. It was a board game, and one of the playing pieces was Baron Samedi. I remember another playing piece was Elizabeth Bathory. I can't remember what the other two playing pieces were. I think Vlad the Impaler was one, but I can't remember I can't remember the fourth piece. But I've always liked that character, Baron Samedi. I'm definitely gonna do my Googles on him and find out more about him. I really like the design of the zombies in this, and mind you, I'm not a zombie movie fan. I don't like modern zombie movies. I'm not into The Walking Dead. I've tried to watch The Walking Dead. Bores me to tears. I'm not into like 28 Days Later, or I guess that is technically an infection film, but I don't like modern zombies. And as I was watching this, I finally realized what it is about the zombie movies of today that I don't like. It's the fact that they don't play up the living dead part. And what I mean by that is we never see them come up out of the ground, out of the grave. That's one of my favorite things about classic zombie movies. Movies like, was it Lamberto Bava that did Zombie? I'll correct myself somewhere on here if I'm saying the wrong director, but Zombie. I like that one. I like Burial Ground. I like Return to Living Dead. And like I said, some of my favorite parts of that is visually seeing the zombies coming up out of the grave. If you don't have that in your zombie movie, I'm not interested. In this, there is a great rising from the grave zombie scene. I was in the middle of saying how much I like the design of the zombies. Because the eyes make no sense, but I still like how they looked. They kind of reminded me of, there was a 1930s zombie movie, and I was looking for it, that I believe it had the same type of eyes that looked like, it had zombie eyes that looked like they were golf balls. And if somebody knows what movie that is, please let me know, because I tried to look it up, and at first I thought maybe it was I Walked with a Zombie, but I don't think that's it. And then I looked up White Zombie, and I don't think that's it either. But if you know what 1930s or might have been 1940s movie had zombies in it that had eyes that look like half golf balls, please let me know in the comments what movie that is. Overall, this is one of my favorite 1970s horror movies. I love the character of Sugar and how it's really a revenge film at its core. And I love how she enacted her revenge on each one of the mobsters and the gangsters. And the racist gangster girlfriend. She was crazy. When she said You didn't even introduce me to that nigga. I died. I'm like, people, who talks like this? This is not real. This is not real life. But unfortunately, it is real life sometimes. But anyways, like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. Just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Did you see Sugar Hill? How many times have you seen Sugar Hill? And let me know in the comments what you thought of it.
Hey, Whitey, you and your punk friends killed my man.
You know, you got one of the prettiest asses in town. I'd sure hate to see it kicked in for accusing people.
I'm not accusing you, honk. I'm passing sentence.
You ain't reading me, are you?
And the sentence is death.
Now you know JD's Revenge goes perfectly with Sugar Hill. That is a 2-4 that you have to see. That is a double feature that is meant to be. Oh, that rhymed. Mixtape dropping soon. I would drop my SoundCloud link in the bottom. Just kidding, I don't rap. So, the synopsis of this movie reads as follows. A mild-mannered law student named Isaac is possessed by the spirit of a 1940s gangster. That's it, there it is. See how simple a premise can be? You don't have to go through all these multi-layered, doing too much ass movies. Just come up with a simple premise and stick to it. This actually stars Glenn Turman, and I remember him from a lot of 80s TV shows. I want to say that was not him in Frank's Place. I always confuse the guy from Frank's Place with Glenn Turman. They don't even look that much alike, but I don't know why I confused them. But most recently, he's popped up in The Chi. This also has Louis Gossett Jr. in it. And I was expecting to see a young Louis Gossett Jr., but apparently that doesn't exist. He is like Samuel L. Jackson and Danny Glover, and apparently they've been 40 years old their whole lives. I'm just kidding. He didn't look a day over 30. Interestingly enough, he actually was 40 years old when he played the character in this movie. I like how they introduced the possession aspect of it. Basically, one night Isaac and his friends go out to go see a psychic show, and the psychic calls him on stage and he is hypnotized, and that's when he is left open to be possessed by JD's ghost. And every time I say the word hypnotized, I can't stop thinking of the Lil Boozy interview. Now they are hypnotized with hate. Anyway, the hypnotism opened him up to be possessed by the spirit of J.D. Walker, a 1940s gangster. This movie is slow at times, but the dialogue is everything. For example, that's the best I ever had. That's because you fucking with an ace. I'm gonna start using that anytime I do something really impressive and someone compliments me. I'm gonna start saying, that's because you were with an ace. Also, when this one dude walks in and he thinks his girlfriend's cheating on him, which she is, and he says, "You got someone with you, bitch." I don't know why. These are so funny to me, but they are. There's a bit of a mystery that unfolds as the movie progresses, and that turned out to be pretty interesting. The movie wraps up the mystery very nicely. This takes place in New Orleans, which is always a great setting and backdrop for horror movies. Well, any movie, come to think of it. The soundtrack and the score were very good. There's very little in the way of any special effects or gore. I mean, there is a scene in a meat packing plant, but I don't really consider it gore because, I mean, before the meat comes to your table, it is obviously cut up by someone. There's a scene of meat being cut and blood coming out of the meat, but I don't really consider that gore too much. There's a good throat slashing that actually looked pretty well done, except for the color of the blood. That always bothers me when they choose to go with a bright red. It just takes me out of the moment. If the blood looks too orangey red, I hate that. But the actual slash mark, very well done. Again, JD's Revenge, classic movie. Unfortunately, this was the first year that I ever saw it. I mean, like I said earlier, I watch Sugar Hill every year, I watch Abby every year. I had not seen JD's Revenge, and I was really sleeping on that. If you've seen JD's Revenge, please let me know how you felt about it. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. And just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Let me know in the comments what you think of JD's Revenge. The beast must die. Don't you love it when in the body of a film, a character actually says the title of the film in the film? Let me tell you, first of all, this movie sounds great in surround sound. The soundtrack, even the sound effects, the wind blowing, it really is a great film to watch in surround sound. The instrumentals were very nice as well. I actually watch this movie at least once a year, and the funny thing is, when they have the werewolf break and ask you, who's the werewolf? I still forget every time. I don't know why. Something's wrong with me. To me, this movie is a classic because of the format and because of the great performances by Marlene Clark, Peter Cushing, and Calvin Lockhart. Speaking of Marlene Clark, she is always so beautiful and dignified, and she just has a presence in everything that she's in. The Beast Must Die is about a man played by Lockhart who invites 8 specifically chosen individuals to his estate to determine which one is a werewolf, and we as the audience are meant to guess who it is. This is a very dialogue heavy movie, but the dialogue is very interesting and very well written, and I really respect that it doesn't treat the audience like we're idiots. I like when a film doesn't insult my intelligence, and this movie definitely did not insult my intelligence. I really liked a lot of the dialogue. The sprawling estate is beautiful, and the way the sets were done were so well that I actually thought the whole thing was shot on location until I looked it up and saw that some of it was shot in studios, because the sets never looked like sets. They really looked like every part of this was shot on that estate. When I did look it up, I found out that it was shot on location in Middlesex in England, but parts were also filmed at Shepperton Studios, which is also in Middlesex, England. Great job by the design team, because the part of the movie that's shot on location and the part of the movie that's shot on a set blends together seamlessly. Fun fact about the werewolf in the movie, I'm not going to spoil and tell you who the werewolf is, but I will say that the werewolf was played by a German Shepherd in costume. Like I said, this movie is a classic. If you have not seen The Beast Must Die, you have to watch The Beast Must Die. It's so good, in my opinion anyways. I just loved how they set up the movie. I love the different characters. It almost reminded you a little bit of like The Haunting in the way that you had the different characters come to the estate. I especially love Calvin Lockhart's performance. He really played this character with dignity and finesse, and I just love to see that in black movies. Unless it's in the case of Silky the Pimp in Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, that was hilarious, but usually I prefer a more dignified presence in black actors or depictions of black characters. That's just me. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Have you seen The Beast Must Die? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments.
This is the werewolf break. Have you guessed who the werewolf is? Is it Paul Foot? Jan? Davina? Dr. Lundgren? Caroline? You have 30 seconds to give your answer. Made up your mind? Let's see if you're right.
Hey guys, I just watched The House on Skull Mountain, which is described as murders occur at the estate of a southern voodoo priestess when 4 of her relatives arrive. I saw this movie being suggested in a lot of different black horror film lists, and they compared it to The Beast Must Die, and they're dead wrong for that, because this is nowhere near as good as The Beast Must Die. The only thing that it has in common with The Beast Must Die is that there's several people who have been chosen to come to an estate. Other than that, no similarity at all. I'm going to start with a couple random things that I noticed. Number 1, they call upon the spirit of Damballa, and I was thinking to myself, why does that name sound familiar? Damballa, Damballa. Then I thought about it. Child's Play. When he was like, Ade, Due, Damballa, give me the power, I beg of you. That's Child's Play. So I need to Google Damballa and see if that's real. Also, there's a scene in the movie where they show a stained glass window, and on the stained glass window it says ad mortem fidelis. You know me, I Google things, I research things. When I see something in a movie that I want to know more about, I look it up, I do my Google. According to Google, it is a Latin phrase that means faithful to death or faithful unto death. That was an interesting Easter egg to have within the movie. Also, there is a basement scene that's supposed to be a voodoo practice that looks all the way ridiculous. Like, they just made that shit up. The whole scene is just so full of shit, and it goes on for way too long. There's also a fight scene that is absolute trash, and then it fades to black almost as if the movie is going to commercial, but it doesn't go to commercial. The fade to black is just oddly timed. This movie is extremely overrated. I don't know why it's on all these lists of great black horror movies. I feel like it had a good idea for a story, but the execution is crap compared to the other movies that I've just reviewed. This movie is just not up to the same standard. And like I said, I'm still offended that they even compared this to The Beast Must Die. That's two different levels of production. The story is really thin. The conclusion is lackluster, and I was skeeved out by all the cousin flirting. Of the 4 people that arrived to the mansion, all 4 of them are cousins. Both of the male cousins creep me out with their incessant flirting. One male cousin, he's more direct with it, where he's just saying, you know, telling his cousin how foxy she looks and all this other kind of stuff. And the other one keeps touching her face and holding her in ways that are just not appropriate. Another thing, the soundtrack was doing way too damn much. There would be a scene where a person is just walking up to a door and knocking on the door, and it would be like this big, loud, orchestral crescendo, like something amazing is happening, and it's just somebody walking over and knocking on the door. And there's another part of the soundtrack where this woman is singing her heart out of this really emotional ballad. Meanwhile, 2 of the cousins are in Atlanta just having fun. It didn't match the scene at all. There isn't too much in the way of special effect. There's one character that zombified that it was just okay. And the only other thing was the matte painting of the house on Skull Mountain, and you can literally see the line where the matte painting ends and where the foreground is in the movie. It was really bad. I'm just glad I'll never have to watch this again. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. Just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Did you see The House on Skull Mountain? Did you actually like it? If so, why? Let me know in the comments. Let's get into this movie. I actually ended up watching this on Shudder, which is interesting because you would think that this type of movie would have been uploaded to YouTube because it's still a VHS transfer. It starts off with a very long title sequence. For some reason, I remember when I first watched this movie, the title sequence being about 6 minutes long, but on Shudder, it's only 3 minutes long. I don't know whether I'm misremembering this or whether it has been cut down. I tried to look it up and I didn't see any information regarding whether it's been cut down or not. Also, the opening sequence music sounds like a preset on a Casio keyboard. I was very surprised to find out that that was an actual score written by someone. The main character in this movie's name is Helen Black, and she is a very chaste Christian woman who doesn't believe in premarital sex and is very, very strictly religious. One day she happens to go to this curio shop, and that's where she sees the doll, which is actually a ventriloquist dummy, and the shopkeeper refers to it as a puppet, but for all intents and purposes, I will refer to it as a doll. I think a ventriloquist dummy is a type of puppet. I don't know. But I feel like there's marionettes, ventriloquist dummies, and then sock puppets. But then I don't know whether it's still... Okay, I'm getting off on a tangent. Never mind. So anyways, the shopkeeper tells her that this doll has special powers to grant the owner their deepest desire, and that she sold the doll 4 times, and each time the doll has found its way back to the shop.
You like it?
Yes, I really do.
I'm gonna tell you a little story about this puppet.
Helen decides to buy the doll anyways. I should say, Helen laughs when she first hears the story, but then she decides to buy the doll.
How much is it?
Now, if you are under the age of 14, this is where you can turn this video off because this is not for your eyes. When she brings a doll home, it immediately has an effect on her psyche. She's in the shower and she starts fantasizing about the doll, and then she starts to masturbate in the shower, and then she even has nightmares about the doll attacking her. She also leaves the doll in one place, then finds it in another, and of course that would freak anyone out. Finally, she tries to put the doll back in its box and then lock it in the closet to keep it from bothering her. And then what happens next is the literal reason why my mother started checking the movies that we rented. Because when I would say I was about 12, 13, I think I was 13 when we rented this movie. I saw the doll with the glowing eyes on the VHS cover, and I thought it was going to be like Child's Play because I really like Child's Play. And before renting this movie, my mother never really checked the movies that we rented because we didn't really rent anything that was too, out of the order. Like we would rent stuff like Dead Alive or the Howling movies. What else did I see on VHS back in the day? Return of the Living Dead, stuff like that. So it was never anything too controversial until this movie. I didn't know how this movie ended before tonight because the scene that I'm just about to talk about happened, and my mother heard the doll calling Helen a bitch. Bitch! And that's when she shut off the VCR, and she was just appalled. She was beside herself. Like, how could anyone make a movie with a doll cursing at this woman? And at this time, I didn't even know about what the doll was going to do next to the woman. I don't recall whether that had happened yet. I think the doll cursed at her and said that he was going to, sleep with her and want to curse on the video, but.
No, please, yes. Let me go.
Yes. This is what you want, and I'm going to give it to you.
I think the doll said he was going to do that, and my mother shut off the VCR before we actually saw the doll do that. But yeah, she, from that day forward, every time we went to the video store, my mother said, I need to see what movies you guys picked out. Let me read the back of the movies. Let me see the rating on the movie that she picked out. So this movie has a special place in my memory for that specific reason. Now, going back to the part of the movie that I did see for the first time tonight. The doll is calling Helen bitch. I'm sorry, why? That shouldn't be funny, but it's hilarious to me. It really shouldn't be funny, but it is. Because the doll is like, hey, bitch, wake up, bitch. If I could find a clip of that doll singing that, that's the funniest thing I've seen in a movie.
Bitch. I said wake up, bitch. Wake up.
So the doll, before he has sex with her, he actually does what DJ Khaled claims to not do. I don't believe him. He says he doesn't do that, but I don't believe him.
Johnny!
And then the doll deflowers her, of course. And yes, they show the doll on top of her stroking. That's what we'll call that. And this awakens her desire. I know, it's sick, right? The doll disappears the next day, and she tries to get the same feeling from the hustle man outside. And you know what a hustle man is? A hustle man is, or a hustle woman, is a person who pretty much resells stolen goods. So she tries to get with the hustle man outside. He cannot please her the way the doll pleased her. So she tells him to get the hell out. Then she goes up to a nightclub and she meets this dude with a perm, and she brings him home, and she can't get any satisfaction from him either the way the doll made her feel. So she eventually buys the doll again, and she tries to beg it to do what it did before. And then she says, well, if I can't have you, no one can, implying that she's going to destroy the doll. And then the doll's eyes light up and kill her.
I can't have you. No one else will.
almost like a possessed type of way, which, you know, it is a devil doll from hell. So cut to the next scene, the doll is back at the store, and the shopkeeper is now telling the next person that she has sold the doll 5 times and it is returned back to the store.
It is said that it is able to give its owner its heartfelt wish. I have sold this puppet on 5 other occasions, and each time it finds its way back to the store.
And the girl still buys the doll, which opens us up for a sequel, which is pretty cool. Now, I know they didn't make a sequel, but they did make a remake, which is awful. It's abysmal. It's so bad. I tried to watch the remake, which was done in 2007, and I couldn't make it through 10 minutes. And I can sit through almost anything. So for me to turn it off, it had to be really, really bad. I mean, it was so bad. I wrote a short list of movies that are better than the remake to Black Devil Doll. Troll 2, The Room, Redneck Zombies, Zombievers, Ghost Shark, Mansquito, Frankenfish, Curse the Queerwolf. All better movies than the remake to Black Devil Doll, so skip it, unless you are a masochist. Watching this as an adult was kind of funny to me because it's so ridiculously outlandish that it's good in some ways. Well, in my opinion anyways. But this movie's not for everyone. If you're the type of person that you liked Frankenhooker, The Greasy Strangler, Poltergeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, this is right up your alley. If those were too much for you, this movie isn't so much your style, and that's alright. Let's talk about the technical aspects of this movie. This is filmed in VHS, and the copy that I watched is on Shudder is a VHS transfer complete with the tracking lines at the top and the bottom. It looks like the director only used natural lighting and the lighting that's available inside the house and the dance club when there was a scene in the dance club. Between the lighting used and the VHS form of recording, this would have looked like a home video if it wasn't for the direction and the camera work, really. The camera work is what keeps this movie from looking too amateur. I like how the director visually told this story. He deliberately chooses to zoom in at certain things, zoom out during certain moments, to do close-ups. He pans through different areas, and it really shows his talent. And in my opinion, you can definitely tell that this director had more talent than he had money, which is always a good thing. And this stands out to me particularly because I've seen so many newer movies recently where people had more money than talent. Terrifier, I'm looking at you. I mean, someone's got to tell me why the lighting in this 1984 VHS recorded movie was better than lighting in Terrifier. That just irritated my life. And then we won't talk about Open House again. That was all budget, all money, very little talent. Except for the cinematographer. They did a good job. The storytelling is actually very good in this. There's a scene where Helen is on the phone with her friend, and the phone conversation definitely, it comes off very natural, but it serves to introduce you more to Helen's character as well as her friend's character, who they play well off each other because Helen is so very chaste and her friend is a little bit loose in the booty. And while this phone conversation is establishing her character, at the same time we're visually seeing her character too as the camera pans around her home, and you see things like the Bible open, the plastic on her furniture, the carefully grown houseplants. These all kind of show us what type of individual she is, and that type of storytelling is underrated. Like I said at the beginning of this with the title sequence, the soundtrack is awful except for the few times where there was an R&B singing style over it. the singer was very good. That part of the soundtrack was really good, but the parts that were just instrumental, whew, really bad. Especially during the scene where the shopkeeper is first telling Helen about the doll. The soundtrack is a little too loud and it's hard for you to hear the shopkeeper. Plus, the notes that are being hit are so tinny. I can't think of another word because I can't say it's not in key. It's in key, but it's so high pitched and annoying that it's very difficult for you to hear what the shopkeeper is saying.
You like it?
Yes, I really do.
I'm gonna tell you a little story about this puppet. The owner of this puppet was an East Indian. It is believed that this puppet has very strange powers. It is said that this puppet is able to give its owner its heartfelt wish. I have sold this puppet on four other occasions. And each time, this puppet always finds its way back to the store.
The effects, as far as the doll looked, I mean, I thought the design of the doll was pretty cool. The facial expressions that the doll made were pretty cool. The only time was kind of funny was the scenes where, the full body scenes, where you can clearly tell it is a small child instead of the doll, which, you know, would be fine if it was a normal horror movie, but no child should be on set for the type of storyline this movie had. I did want to go over a little bit of trivia that I found about this movie that I found kind of interesting. One thing, the doll's head fell off during the filming of the scene with the doll having sex with the woman. That particular doll used for the movie was found in a hobby shop in Chicago. And the scenes, like I said, the full body scenes that you could tell was a small child, apparently that was the director's nephew. And the original title for this was called The Puppet. And the title was changed to appease the VHS distributor, who agreed to release the film, but only if the original title was dropped and replaced with Black Devil Doll from Hell. I think that was actually a good decision, because The Puppet is not as memorable a name or title as Black Devil Doll from Hell. Almost everyone who worked on this film got paid by the director Chester Novell Turner, but Turner didn't pay himself anything during the making of this movie. The doll's tongue was made out of latex and a coat hanger. Chester Novell Turner wrote the script in 3.5 days. Believable. This is one of my favorite facts. The dummy's cornrow hairstyle was done as a tribute to singer Rick James. The film was entirely financed by Chester Novell Turner, so an independent film. And the curio shop was located in a suburb of Chicago. And all the shots within the curio shop were done in one day. A very interesting little piece. I'm looking forward to watching his other film, which is on YouTube. I'll probably put the link in the description or in the first comment underneath this video.
How do you like that, bitch?
We're going to talk about Death by Temptation, which was released in 1990 and stars Kadeem Hardison, Samuel L. Jackson, James Bond III. Who else was in it? I feel like somebody else was in it. The dude that played Radio Raheem. His name is Bill Nunn, by the way. I actually had to Google that because I only know him as Radio Raheem. I'm sure you do too.
You should use a cigarette lighter. The flame lasts longer.
The movie starts out with a bartender who's on the phone and he just says, "Just get an abortion. What's the big deal?"
had a good time, right? So, I assume that you're a big girl, that you're taking something. So just get an abortion. What's the big deal?
When a movie starts out with that, you just know where we're heading and what we're in for. The fact that it's a Lloyd Kaufman of Troma Films production also lets you know what we're in for. And if you're unfamiliar with Troma Films, they're responsible for The Toxic Avenger, Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, Tromeo and Juliet, Class of Nukem High, etc. Oh, one of my favorites that I should do this month too, because it does have a black actress in it. Surf Nazis Must Die. I know it sounds really stupid, but you just have to see it. By the way, Troma was not always horror comedy based. They actually did a very serious horror movie called The Children. I don't know whether it came out in 1980 or 81. It was around that era. It's actually a very solid horror movie. I should get a chance to review it sooner or later, but they actually did do serious horror movies before they hit it off with The Toxic Avenger and then kind of replicated that formula for comedy horror. 9 minutes into this movie, we get our first kill and some male frontal nudity. Not bad. But the kill happens off camera and you just see a door and blood seeping out from underneath the door, which I respect because, like I say, you know, I was gonna say kids gotta have horror to watch too, but I don't know how many people want their kids seeing male frontal nudity that early. Like for me, I don't care because I feel like nudity is natural, but some people are like, I don't want my kids to see nudity, but they can see people get stabbed in the necks all night. The soundtrack is doing entirely too damn much.
Hi. Can you talk? Is he there? Did he leave already? Good. So we got the whole weekend again. Perfecto. So, listen, honey, I got this new fantasy about dressing up in your husband's clothes and playing Captain Kirk and going where no man has ever gone before.
But I love it. I'm here for it. It's 1990s. It's got some New Jack Swing on it, that old school type of rapping, where randomly someone just says bass in the song over and over again. Just bass.
Makes you feel that way about me. Don't give me no shut up.
They should bring that back. I feel like this movie has three main sets: the bar, the succubus/demon's bedroom, and Kadeem Hardison's apartment. But then again, it may only have one set that they just keep breaking down and changing. Like, I feel like they rented out one apartment in New York and they just keep changing the decor inside to make it look like different places, but it has the same two big windows in the background that kind of give away that it is the same place, possibly, allegedly, supposedly. The production value is very similar to a horror anthology TV show. This didn't really bother me because, I don't know, it just didn't bother me. Like sometimes, no, it didn't bother me because I know they didn't have a big budget. It's one thing when I know people have a big budget and they spend it all on just the movie stars and not on any of the production, then that irritates me. But when you know that they're working with a really low budget, then okay, they did what they could with what they had. What did bother me is how in some other ways this movie is so bad. There were some really funny scenes and sequences in the bar, and I feel like that was the best part of the movie, were the scenes in the bar, especially with this one character who's picking up different women and the stuff he's saying to them is hilarious, and also their reaction.
I'm a martial artist primarily by profession. I'm running late. I have to get to the airport. I have a flight for Tibet tonight. Yeah, I'm going to work on this new film project with Bruce Lee. Between me and you, Bruce is not dead, okay?
However, there were other parts of the movie that really dragged on. They could have cut 25 minutes out of this movie easily. And then the final showdown with the demon and Joel was the name of the character, who was played by the writer and the director, James Bond III. That's why I will never forget this guy's name, because his name is literally James Bond III. I think that as a director, I think he's pretty good. As a writer, only so-so. As an actor, I'm glad well, to my knowledge, he stopped. I haven't really seen him in anything else, but he really should have hired another actor to play the main character Joel, because he's not an actor. But I give you credit for your direction, especially if you were directing some of the lighting choices. Those were really great. But that last scene that you did with the final showdown with the succubus, that was garbage. That was trash, and you know it. Let me just describe it to you. And I'm sorry, is it spoiling the movie? Is it bad to spoil this movie? Fuck it. Joel's grandmother shows up to try to save the day to keep the succubus demon from getting Joel. She gets, thrown across the room, and then the demon is choking her. And oh wait, Joel gets thrown across the room too. And for at least, I don't know, it felt like an eternity. There's all these flashbacks and realizations of what Joel is supposed to do, because, you know, he was going to into the ministry before he went to visit his cousin in New York. And so there's this whole, oh, I have to realize that I am meant to be a minister and I have to use, you know, the power of the Lord to help, I don't know, deliver the demon or something like that. I haven't watched enough Medea movies to explain this. But he takes forever to crawl across the floor to rescue his grandma who's being choked and to grab this crucifix. And it doesn't take that long. It was like crawl, flashback. Crawl, flashback. Like, in the time that he's doing all this crawling and flashback, his grandmother would have been choked out and dead. Like, the timing was just all kinds of wrong. I mean, that's what you need, an editor. The movie was 25 minutes too long. Certain things shouldn't, you know, dragged about. And in this last scene, you needed an editor. So I take back the thing about being a bad writer. Maybe you weren't that bad of a writer. Maybe what you needed was a good editor. That makes a huge difference. This movie still holds a nostalgic place in my heart because it had Samuel Jackson and Kadeem Hardison and Bill Nunn. I feel bad. He will forever, well, maybe it's a good thing, he will forever be known as Radio Raheem. And shout out to all those people that actually watched Do the Right Thing when they aired it on TV. I think it was on CBS, and they kept on editing it, and he was yelling, D, Mickey Ficky, D. That's random memory. I thought it was funny. Maybe you think it's funny. Oh well. One last thing about James Bond III's acting. How are you delivering the lines this bad when you wrote them? The effects were hit and miss for the most part. Some were really well done, and then others were just comme ci comme ça. And I don't know what that was. Maybe they switched out the effects team, or maybe they ran out of money. Sometimes it happens when they spend too much money on some earlier effects, they don't have enough money for the later effects in the movie. Sometimes the quality takes a hit. But good news is this movie is free to watch on Amazon Prime, so I can't recommend watching it unless you really are into 90s nostalgia. Well, I should say 80s/90s. It says that this movie came out in 1990, but it feels like it came out in the 80s. And then at one point in the movie, Kadeem Hardison says something about, where's my car? It's a 1988 Peugeot. And then it made me think, he wouldn't say that unless he's saying it's a brand new car. So I'm thinking this movie really was made 87, 88-ish, but it wasn't released until 1990, which happens sometimes because when you watch the movie, the haircuts, everything is kind of 80s, except for some of the music, which is a little bit more 90s. That says to me this movie was made in the 80s, but when they released it, it was 1990, and they put the soundtrack behind it, you know, after the fact, which is what usually happens. So if you're into 80s/90s nostalgia, I would definitely go and watch this movie because it was fun. Some movies, even though they're bad, they're still fun to watch, so I will give it that. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because you hate, I'm sorry, I can't even say my own shit. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. So if you've seen this movie, let me know in the comments what you thought.
Look, now, when she drinks that holy water, she's gonna start slobbering and farting and gagging.
I'm on a mission and nobody can't cramp my style. So if you can't get down, stay out the crib for a while. I don't mean to be cruel and know my heart.
Death by Temptation, a new movie from Troma. With new music by Ashford and Simpson, Melba Moore, Najee, and Freddie Jackson.
Hey Latchkey kids and driving mutants, I'm Lady Shasha, mistress of the snark. And today we're going back to the 90s with a classic slasher film called Axum. Yes, before the blackening, there was Axum. You know what you're in for when a movie starts with typos. The score is great, but they play it just a little too loud for you to hear the dialogue. Look, check it out. Someone else in my bag. I want you to come down.
Well, I have to go, but you know I have to work this weekend.
Just see if you can get off.
All right, I'll ask her. But I know she's going to give me a hard time about needing that time off.
Look, just tell her this. Tell her fast trying to come up and you got it. You got to leave.
Okay, all right, what if she says no?
The gist of this is a group of college friends are planning to go to a cabin in the woods for a weekend. I love the part of this movie that features Morgan State University, which is an HBCU. For my international subscribers, HBCU stands for Historically Black College. In the US during the American apartheid known as segregation, black people weren't allowed to attend most white colleges, so black colleges were created. Today these colleges still exist and are still predominantly black, but students from around the world also attend them. During my college years, I attended both an HBCU and a PWI, predominantly white institution is what PWI stands for. And I had great experiences at both, but I feel like my experience at an HBCU is invaluable to me, especially coming from Connecticut, and where I grew up in Connecticut, me and my sister were at sometimes the only 2 black students in 6 grades of school, and other times one of 3 or 4 black students in a classroom. So to attend a university where you no longer have to even register mentally as a minority was really, really a blessing to me. Plus, being in an academic institution that doesn't discount or otherize your culture is a wonderful experience. This movie features a college day party with a fraternity stepping as well as a DJ. Some children hip-hop dancing. A comedian, and a game of playing the dozens, or ranking, or snapping, depending on where in the U.S. you're from.
Oh, you got something to say? Not with this big tennis trick doggy jacket you got on here. Because I got it. What's up? Oh, I got a joke. What? Your mother's so cross-eyed. No. Hold on, yeah. Your mother's so cross-eyed and she got out the front door and see the kids playing in the backyard. Your mother's so dumb she was in a shootout and got stabbed. Oh, you big Dayline, Andre-looking, funny MC Hammer built my shoe. Your mother's so dumb I gave her a penny for her thoughts and got back changed.
It was so nostalgic to see the clothes and the hair from that time. I was just starting high school in 1990, because when I started high school it was 1989, so it was September, October, November, December, so 4 months of 89, and then it was 1990. But we were still wearing similar clothes. Full disclosure, I dressed a lot more like this in the 90s. Literally had an outfit like this in red plaid with the socks to match. But a lot of girls dress like the outfit that I have on today. Unfortunately, I never got a pair of these earrings, even though I wanted a pair of these earrings. I had a very little small pair, but I didn't have a big pair like this. These are the joints, and there was no way I was gonna be able to afford one of these when I was in high school. Like, the weight of this. It's totally fake now, and from Rainbow. I got this chain from Rainbow, and the outfit from Rainbow too, which was like the most 90s thing that I could think to do. Hope y'all like it. Oh, and I recreated my hairstyle from prom. Sort of recreated it, because I don't have the same hair products, because we don't put gasoline byproducts in our hair anymore like we did back in the day, so had no bergamot or Dax or anything, and I just used what I had to try to get the same effect, but this is what you got. Anyway, the friends have dinner, and why is dude's hat so small? And nobody told him. They diss each other some more, and I thought it was kind of excessive, but some older Gen Xers are truly like this. Like, they don't feel like they're living unless they're insulting somebody for fun. We get a flashback to a person taking their family out Amityville style before taking themselves out. This person possesses the man who becomes the axe murderer of this movie. They have dinner again, and the dialogue is...
Hold up, Tony, how was your sleep? Did you get any last night? You know what I'm saying? You know how it is.
Look, if you open your mouth, young man, I will have your balls for breakfast. Girl, I thought you was a vegetarian.
Another 3 characters are introduced, but I won't waste your time on their backstory because they're just here to get killed.
Here's this problem. We're out of gas. I told you before we left to get some damn gas, but no, you had to look. I should have stayed on the goddamn bus.
Anyway, this movie is listed as the worst horror movie made, and it's not even close. I've seen so many worse horror movies. I can't even. Even though they did have 3 or possibly 4 dinner scenes, I got so sick of watching them eat dinner. And you can play a drinking game anytime anyone high-fives, low-fives, or gives dap in any form or fashion.
This weekend gonna be nice than a motherfucker, man. I'm telling you, boy. Anybody? Shit, man. Roll out. Yeah, let's go. I got the strawberries and the whipped cream. I got the dirty rolls and the old English.
I could still think of worse movies. That said, the acting is pretty bad. And since a picture's worth 1,000 words, I'm just gonna place this one scene here for you to enjoy.
Hello? Hello?
Is anybody home? Hello? I just want to use your phone. Okay, come on out. I know you're up here. Hello? Damn, no phone.
Do I really need to say more to sell you on this movie? I refuse to believe there was an actual script for this. It feels kind of improvised, and I love it that way. I think it's because the actors truly look like they're friends having fun together making this film.
Oh, now you worried about me getting my wish. You just worried about me getting my wish. You worried about me getting my wish.
I'd like to talk about a few other scenes that stood out to me, like this one with the horror movie trope of the European American woman who always falls in horror movies. No one. No one at all. But wait, there's more. And the other scene.
What's wrong with you? You've been acting really silly out here. I don't believe you sitting out in these woods asking me stupid questions like that.
You're getting smart with. I don't know who in the hell you talking to, but you better get with the program and act like you know.
But listen, you just gotta understand. I ain't never been in no situation like this before. I ain't never been out in no woods with no man chasing me with no. I don't believe. I can't believe this. We gonna kill us. We just gonna die. Everybody gonna get us. We gonna. I don't believe it. Oh my God! No, you did not just smell me out here in these woods. I don't believe that. No, you did not just smell me in these woods. Excuse me. Hello? Hello? Excuse me, everyone. Excuse me. You just smacked me out in these woods. Have you lost your marbles, miss? Excuse me. Nobody touches this face. No one. No one in this whole creation touches this face. You must have lost it. You must have gone crazy. Listen. You must have gone crazy. What is wrong with you? Listen. Just help me move this. I will deal with you when we get home. I don't believe you just smacked me in these woods. Listen. Go around and try to get in this car. You must be crazy. Come on now.
Oh my God, the agenda. This movie is so woke. Anyway, there was some fun, low-budget gore. This movie has a runtime of about 70 minutes, and I love that. I actually think this movie deserves a 4K restoration, with possible extras like interviews from the actors. If they can track down the director and writer as well, that would be cool. By the way, in my thumbnail, I did mention that this was before The Blackening, but it wasn't the only Black Cabin in the Woods horror film. There was Holla, Holla 2, Somebody Help Me 2 to start. One criticism that I have of these and The Blackening is the near bloodlessness of these films. If you promise me a slasher movie, I want some slashing. And if you're to give me gore, what's even the point? I laugh every time I see a sex scene with a sister and a bra on. Girl, if you didn't want to do the sex scene, don't take the part. It's so ridiculous to me. No gore, no sex. What's the point of making a slasher? Go make a supernatural horror or thriller. Oh wait, those require you put more effort into writing. And that's the thing. People think that making a slasher movie is a shortcut. It's not a shortcut, because the actual standout stars in slasher films, to me, is the special effects crew. If you have no special effects crew doing the actual execution of the slashings and the aftermath of the slashings, do you really even have a slasher movie? That aside, this is why I come back to Axum over and over again. It's just a really fun movie to watch. It could do with more gore itself, but with what they had to work with, which was looked like a zero budget, I think they did a great job. that's all I have to say about Axum. I thought this review would be longer, but it's fairly short. Axum is a great 90s horror movie. It's like a snapshot into the 90s, and I also love that about the movie. But like I always say, don't take my word for it. Watch it for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Watch it for yourself. Let me know in the comments what you think. At the time of this recording, Axum is available for free, and I will put the link in the first pinned comment so you can all enjoy watching Axum. Until next time.
Bitch, goddammit, been running after me all this damn time. Once and for all. Damn, time of day. Damn it. I'm all nut as hell. Oh, shit!
Hey guys, happy Mardi Gras, or Joyeux Mardi Gras, laissez le bon temps rouler, as they say in New Orleans, and I am going to be talking to you about the Candyman trilogy today because Candyman, whose real name is Daniel Robitaille's birthplace is New Orleans. I thought of other movies I could have done to celebrate Mardi Gras, and one of the finalists would have been the Hatchet trilogy, but I felt like because it's Black History Month, even though Hatchet does have a main black protagonist in the first, well actually it's a quadrilogy now, with Victor Crowley recently being released, I still thought Candyman was more appropriate. It's been a long time since I've actually watched Candyman. The first time I saw it, I was about 13 or 14. No, I was definitely 14 years old, and it scared the crap out of me. I mean, so bad. I had a sheet over the mirror in my bedroom for a week solid. That's how much that movie scared me when I first saw it. And the funny thing is, as I was watching it today, I just noticed that there's a decorative mirror in the living room that I was watching it, and now I feel extra gangster because I watched it with that decorative mirror sitting right there, listening to them say Candyman 5 times. The movie starts with this really great overhead shot of the Chicago landscape and some highways and buildings. That is kind of rare to see in a horror movie, and this is one of the first horror movies to do something on such a grand scale that way, as far as getting an aerial shot, having to, you know, take a helicopter. You see it more frequently now because people can film with drones, but back then that shot cost a lot of money. And I apologize in advance if you hear my beads jingling, but it's Mardi Gras, so hey, you will deal. The title sequence is haunting in and of itself, just showing the landscape, but it's also assisted by the soundtrack, which I feel like the score for this movie is one of the best horror scores. It's right up there with the score from The Exorcist, in my opinion. And then you hear the voiceover of Tony Todd's epic voice.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding? With my hook for a hand, I'll split you from your groin to your gullet.
First time I saw this movie was on HBO, so when I went to school that Monday, a lot of people had seen Candyman because it was on, you know how back in the day HBO would premiere a movie on a Saturday night, and everybody would be excited about seeing it. For you youngins, you'll never get to experience the excitement of a new movie premiering on HBO. Anyways, the following week, a bunch of people at school had seen it, and there was one kid that sat behind me in science class, and he could get his voice to sound real deep, to sound just like Candyman's voice, and he would sit in class and say Helen really, really deeply, and it creeped me out every time. Shout out to you, Harry-O, if you're watching this video. This movie comes from a Clive Barker short story called The Forbidden, and the original protagonist actually is a British man. I can't recall which specific city in England the original story takes place, but it is from a Clive Barker, I don't know whether it's a short story or a novella, but it was called The Forbidden. It's basically about a graduate student that is studying urban legends, and she comes across the Candyman legend and finds that it is native to Chicago, so she starts poking around Chicago to find out more information about the legend. There's some great camera work in this movie as well. There's a great shot of when Helen removes a mirror out of a bathroom and you see the view of the hole in the wall looking through to the next apartment, through a room, and then to the door on the other side. And there's something really creepy about just that imagery. I can't put my finger on why it was creepy. It's possible the line of sight, because it kind of reminded me of that image of the clock in Insidious. And the only things I can think that they have in common is that you can see everything around it from the ceiling to the floor, which makes it, in my opinion, more realistic, because that's what you would see in real life. There's also a shot of a baby doll in the bathtub, and that, for some reason, is kind of striking to me also. The story of Candyman, or how he came to be, is about as American as apple pie, especially when you consider the history of people being lynched from Emmett Till on up to Trayvon Martin. And I said what I said. I will not argue with you in the comments about that. For some reason, when I was a kid, that scene where they have a lineup in the police department and they have the guy saying, "I hear you looking for Candyman, bitch," that cracked me up when I was a kid, because none of those men look alike.
We're here looking for Candyman, bitch.
Step back. Number 4, step forward and set a line.
We hear you looking for Candyman, bitch.
Step back. Number 5, step forward and set a line.
We hear you looking for Candyman, bitch.
Step back, take him out.
So to me, it was hilarious. But as an adult, it's no longer hilarious, because you know that that really happens. Everyone fits the description, so it's kind of not funny anymore. Anyway, let's get back to the fun part of reviewing this film. When Candyman first appears to Helen in the parking garage, it's such an iconic scene.
Who is that?
I came for you.
Do I know you?
And it's funny because it doesn't happen until 44 minutes into the movie. I appreciate how this movie takes the time to develop, and how nowadays so many movies, they wouldn't wait till 44 minutes for that scene to happen. They'd have it happen in the first 15 minutes, and that bothers me to no end. Let a story develop, let characters develop, give things time. I don't understand how too many new movies give weak exposition and cheap jump scares. By the way, before I gloss over it, when Candyman first appears in that parking garage, one of the best things about him is the design of his coat. I always thought the design of his coat was so great, because it really reminds you of what time period he's coming from. Now, while I'm bigging up this movie, I'm not saying it's without any faults. There are a few things that kind of fell short, especially as I'm rewatching it as an adult. The character that Vanessa Williams played, not to be confused with the singer Vanessa Williams, there's an actress named Vanessa Williams, which is why when the singer Vanessa Williams started acting, she had to go by Vanessa L. Williams, because the other actress had already gotten her SAG card with the Vanessa Williams. I think she's a very beautiful woman, and in most things she does a good job. In this, I felt like she fell short because she couldn't capture the vernacular of a woman that's living in the projects. And you can tell that she's trying to put on this hood accent, but she just can't really nail it, and it always takes me out of the movie. Then there's also writing issues. For example, Helen wakes up in a situation and immediately incriminates herself, and I remember thinking, why would you do that when that's obviously going to incriminate you? I thought that was kind of odd, and I feel like they could have written that a little bit better in order to progress the story to where they wanted it to go. I'm trying not to spoil this, because I've said it before, I'll say it again. Someone might be discovering this movie via this video, and they're maybe 12, 14 years old, 16 years old. I don't want to spoil the movie for them. I want them to get the same enjoyment that I got when I was that age. So that's why I'm not spoiling movies that are so old. And just as I say that, there's one little thing that I want to say that would be kind of a spoiler, but it doesn't really affect the story all that much. Helen's husband is such a jerk, and it's bad enough the whole having the affair. And like I say, this doesn't totally affect the story too much, so I won't call it a huge spoiler, but this is what I have to say that in order to get to what I'm about to say, which is the chick that he cheats with wastes no time to come in that apartment and paint everything pink. And I'm like, if I'm Helen, I'm not home for what, a day and a half, and you've already got this chick turning my whole condo into the Barbie dream house? That's just disrespectful. I mean, even more, I was gonna say even more so than the cheating, but no, that's not more disrespectful than cheating. But just painting a whole apartment pink and then having matching pink leather furniture, who does stuff like this? And I'm really genuinely bothered by her decorating choices. I am very glad that the movie ended the way it did. The soundtrack and the sound design are really, really great. As I mentioned earlier, the score is one of those iconic scores that I really do hold it in the same regard as the score from Exorcist, and in some parts the score from the original Saw movie. The sound design was also done very well, especially how they chose different times to use an absence of sound, which it can be very effective if you know when to use it. The absence of sound in this movie works extremely well when it comes to the very few jump scares that there are. And by the way, I don't recall there being any false scares. Like, if there's a jump scare, it is a true jump scare. And part of what makes them very effective is that there is no musical cue or warning. It's not a startle scare like a lot of newer movies will just blare a loud noise at you and it'll startle you and not truly scare you. This would truly scare you because you're not expecting it, and the way that they do it by drawing you into something very quiet and then something happening without any noise. It's very effective. The artwork in this movie is very good. The graffiti is well done. The artwork that is depicting the story of Daniel Robitaille, which is Candyman's real name, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, is extremely well done. Plus, Chicago makes a really good backdrop for a horror movie because, in my opinion, it's a cursed city. Now, there's a lot of cities in America that are haunted. There's a lot of places in America that are haunted because of America's history, but I believe Chicago itself is cursed. Now, I'm not saying this about people who live in Chicago or people who are from Chicago. I'm not saying this against you, and I'm not talking about, the current day gang violence. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with when you look at the history of Chicago. And in preparation of this video, I actually went online to check my facts because I just had this feeling. So let me check my facts. And then as I was looking, I found out about, or I should say I was reminded, because I was taught this in history class about this particular incident, but I stumbled upon some others. And the incident I'm talking about that we were taught in history class was about the Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929, which I think had something to do with Al Capone orchestrated it to get rid of Bugsy Malone, I believe. And a lot of people have heard about that, of course. But before that, there was a train crash in, 1918. 86 people were killed in this train crash. They were all part of a circus, and there's a cemetery, I believe, that is called Showman's Rest. Before that, America's first known serial killer named H.H. Holmes resided in Chicago. He had this building that he built with all these secret rooms in it. They say he killed up to 200 people. Speaking of serial killers, I believe John Wayne Gacy is also from Chicago, as is Richard Speck. And there's a few more serial killers from Chicago, but the names escape me. But going back to what I was saying about H.H. Holmes and the building that he built in Chicago where he was killing people, that was in the 1880s, 1890s-ish. Before that, there was a huge fire. The Chicago fire happened in 1871. Then before that even, the U.S. military massacred the Potawatomi Indians in 1812. So you have this area where there's so much death and destruction and bloodshed for hundreds of years. It's cursed. It's just my opinion. Few realized that one of its most chilling scenes was drawn from a real Chicago case that had made headlines 5 years earlier. In April 1987, 52-year-old Ruthie Mae McCoy called police to report that someone was trying to enter her 11th floor apartment through the bathroom cabinet. When officers arrived, she was gone. In 1987, Ruthie Mae McCoy was found murdered inside her Chicago apartment after telling police that someone was trying to break in through her bathroom mirror. This real-life case was alluded to multiple times within the Candyman movie and also was clearly an inspiration to the screenwriter. If you want to know more about this, Nightmare Files has an excellent video breakdown about this entire case. Aside from that, let's get back to the movie. So that's why I feel like Chicago as a backdrop made the movie even extra creepier because of, like I said, my belief that it's a cursed place. The practical effects used in this movie were pretty good. Most of them hold up to this day, especially the scene that they used the bees in, is because they used hundreds of bees, real bees, not CGI bees. that really holds up to this day. As I said before about the jump scares, they're very effective. I've seen this movie multiple times and I still get affected by the jump scares every time. I should know that they're coming, I should remember that they're coming, but I'm still startled each time. When I was a kid and I saw this, what happened to Helen at the end really disturbed me. I want to tell you what happened or why it disturbed me, but if I tell you why it disturbed me, it'll definitely spoil what happened to her. What she went through and what she had to do disturbed me as a kid due to what happened to her, how do I say it without spoiling? I can't. I'll just say that it disturbed me. That's all I can do. I can't even, go into specifics. If you want to know, ask me in the comments and then I'll respond directly to your comment. Anyways, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I have to give a shout out to Minty Comedic Arts because that's how I found out about the original short story about Candyman and how he was British. If you want to see more trivia about Candyman, definitely check out Minty Comedic Arts channel because he does videos every week with trivia about movies. Not all of them are horror movies, but even if it's a movie I'm not interested in, his videos are still pretty interesting, so definitely shout out to him and check him out. I highly recommend this movie to the uninitiated. I think that 14 is an excellent age to watch this film. That's just my opinion. Oh, and one more funny story for the road. This is about Tony Todd. He's actually from Hartford, Connecticut, and my mother's cousins grew up in a house right next door to him. And my mother told me when they were kids and they would all play together, Tony would always say, I'm gonna be an actor when I grow up. I'm gonna be an actor when I grow up. And they would laugh and say, yeah, right, Tony, you're not gonna be an actor. And guess what? He's an actor. Second part of that story, I was at my grandmother's house and phone rings. I answer the phone, I hear Candyman's voice. After I resuscitated myself, he asked to speak to my cousin who happened to be visiting my grandmother at the time, and that's when I was told the story of how they knew him growing up on Mayo Avenue in Hartford, Connecticut. So that's my Tony Todd story.
Candyman.
It's just a story.
Candyman.
Candyman. Just a ghost story.
Candyman.
Candyman. You don't have to believe. Just beware.
Happy T-shirt Tuesday. The shirt that I am wearing today is actually vintage, and I don't mean vintage like I found it at a thrift store. I mean I've had this shirt for over 20 years vintage. Let's talk about Tales from the Hood, which apparently now is a trilogy. I actually haven't seen this movie in years, not since it came out. And I remember when it came out, my stepfather kept on repeating the mortuary dude's line, "Oh yes, you'll get the shit." This is an anthology series, and it starts with a wraparound story, which is 3 guys going to a mortuary to retrieve some drugs that the mortician found on a dead body. Looking back at this now, the mortician looks like Samuel Jackson's character of Mr. Glass. Looks like it was modeled off of this mortician. So anyways, he tells these 3 young men a series of 3 tales. The first story is about a rogue cop revelation. It starts off showing police brutality over the soundtrack of Billie Holiday singing Strange Fruit, which if you listen to the lyrics of Strange Fruit, it's a story basically about lynching. This story explores the code of conduct that police officers have with each other surrounding not snitching. One of the police officers is so struck with guilt that he quits the force and becomes an alcoholic. He's then contacted in a supernatural way, and the other cops that are dirty get their comeuppance. After all these years, the practical effects still hold up. One of the victims looks a lot like the hit and run victim from the Thanks for the Ride Lady segment in Creepshow 2. And also the graffiti artwork of another character reminds me a lot of the graffiti that was in Candyman. The score is excellent, and this was very cinematic. Story 2, I believe, is called Do Boys Get Bruised? It's a story about a little boy named Walter, who is afraid of a monster that abuses him at night. This story turns out to be a metaphor for something else as well, which predates the Babadook by 20 plus years. And I'm going to keep doing that. As I review movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I'm going to keep pointing out when these horror movies display social commentary within the subtext of their stories. Because for some reason the media keeps acting like this is a brand new, groundbreaking thing in horror, and it's not. The acting in this segment was excellent. David Alan Grier, who is a comedic actor, did a great job as a dramatic horror actor. There was only one comical line that he delivered, and it was right when he got his comeuppance. The child actor did great as well. The effects team really did their job in this one, although I did laugh at the ending effect of what happened to David Alan Grier's character. The third story is called KKK Comeuppance. It is about a nefarious politician who lives on a plantation and is super racist. The house has this huge painting with what they call a voodoo woman in the painting and all of her dolls. He's told that this house is haunted and that those dolls will seek revenge, which of course he doesn't believe. I'm laughing because I actually wrote in my notes, he has a Caramel Coon campaign advisor. Sometimes I'm surprised by my own self. Anyways, that's what I'm going to call him, and he meets his end through an unfortunate accident within the house. The camera work in this segment really shines. The zoom-ins, the camera angles, the point of view shots, especially from the doll's point of view, were really impressive. Again, the score remains strong as well as the sound design throughout this segment. To get the full effect, listen to this movie or watch this movie in surround sound and you'll hear the little footsteps of the dolls running around you. And they come through like different speakers, like from one side of the room to the other side of the room. It's a really great effect. It looks like they use stop motion for the doll's movement, and that works out very good for me. I am a fan of stop motion. I'll take stop motion over CGI any day of the week. I would say that the doll's movement in this is similar to that of the puppets in Puppet Master. Story 4 is called Hardcore Convert. Some gang members get into a shootout with another set, I'm guessing, and then the police show up and shoot everybody. One of them survives, and he's offered a deal to get out of prison if he submits himself to a behavioral modification experiment. The facility that they take him to has a very 1930s Frankenstein meets 1950s drive-in look to it. And then they solidify this by having a character named Dr. Cushing, which is most likely an homage to the Hammer horror film actor Peter Cushing. For some reason, the prisoner Jerome is in a banana hammock. The video and musical behavioral modification is still relevant to this day. The practical effects in this segment were the best in the whole series, especially the dude that had half his head blown off. And at this point we find out that the wraparound story involving the three criminals coming to the mortuary to get the found drugs is called Welcome to the Mortuary. And there's a really great reveal here. I would talk about it, but I want people who haven't seen this to enjoy it for the first time the way I enjoyed it way back in the day. So I won't tell you what happens ultimately at the end with the wraparound story. You just have to watch it for yourself. But I will say that it worked off the strength of the actors. Without that, it could have come off very corny, and they were able to sell it. I'm going to come back in a second and talk about Tales from the Hood 2. Be back in a minute. We're still on a vampire shit. Yeah, I'm not worried about cursing because my videos aren't monetized anyway, so... Let's talk about Vampire in Brooklyn, which came out in 1995 and stars Eddie Murphy, Angela Bassett, and Kadeem Hardison. Oh, and I almost forgot John Witherspoon. He's more of a supporting actor in this, but you know John Witherspoon, no matter what he's in, he's going to be excellent. By the way, this is directed by Wes Craven, and I did not know that he directed it when I saw it a long time ago. I must say that I appreciate this movie so much more now as an adult than I did when it came out. I won't tell you so much what this movie's about, other than it's kind of an updated, in my opinion, kind of an updated version of Blacula. The story is slightly different, but the basis is kind of the same. I really love how Kadeem Hardison's character kind of became his Renfield, and this is one of the very few vampire movies that actually did a nod to Renfield with Kadeem Hardison eating the bugs. The only other movie I can think of that did that little nod to Renfield was Fright Night with that character, the vampire next door, Familiar we'll call him. I think he ate bugs, or did he eat rats? Man, I gotta watch Fright Night again. Either way, those are only two movies that really had a Renfield character for their vampire protagonist. The makeup for the most part was pretty good, except for a few moments. Sometimes it was better than other times. Like for example, there were times when I couldn't stop focusing on the line around Eddie Murphy's lace front wig. I don't know why. Maybe they put too much glue, maybe they didn't blend the makeup well, I don't know. I'd like to know how to blend it as well. It's like I've been watching, sorry, this is a side note, but I've been watching RuPaul's Drag Race, and the way that these ladies put the wigs, and I'm calling them ladies because when they're in drag, to me they're ladies, goddammit. The way they put the lace fronts on and you can't see the edge of the lace front is magic. What was I saying? Yes, Eddie Murphy's lace front was distracting, as was his fake goatee, because it didn't match the mustache. His mustache was black hair and the goatee was kind of a really chocolate brown, and the texture of the hair didn't match, so I kept on my eyes kept on focusing in on that. The preacher makeup wasn't so great either because how shiny it was. To those who have seen the movie, they know what I'm talking about. I won't tell you because I don't want to spoil it, because like I said, could be a 12-year-old, 14-year-old just now discovering this movie because they saw my video. I want them to get the same enjoyment of seeing it for the first time that I got. So I'm not going to completely spoil this. Did I mention that the preacher makeup was too shiny? I think I did, but I'm going to say it again because it was too shiny. But some of the best makeup was the Italian thug. That was an amazing makeup job. And if you didn't already know that Eddie Murphy is known for playing multiple roles within the same movie, you might not catch that that's him. But the eyes give it away. The eyes give it away immediately. You look, you say, oh, those are Eddie Murphy's eyes. The makeup for Kadeem Hardison's ghoul character / Renfield character was really good, especially as he deteriorates. That was pretty good. The set design team did the damn thing. Shout out to them. I loved what they did with what they had. Great work on the interiors. Eddie Murphy was amazing in multiple roles as usual. I feel like this movie is extremely underrated in his catalog. I think people really overlook it because I think at the time people saw it as a departure, but really it holds up as far as I'm concerned comedically with his other movies. I was laughing. The jokes were funny. But again, to me, the funniest was the Italian thug. That was, I mean, part of it was lifted from some of his, not lifted, but reused from some of his stand-up. But when he acted it out, I was in tears. And yeah, it's stereotypical, it's bad. Product of its time. We're going to keep saying that. Remember what I said about the 1930s movies, 1940s movies, 1970s movies, 1990s movies. It's a product of its time. Not to mention, sometimes we can laugh at stereotypes as long as it's not coming from a malicious place. If it's coming from, oh, this is a funny stereotype, let's poke fun at it, that's fine. If it's coming from, I hate you, you shouldn't be alive, I believe in genocide, I don't want you living, working, or breathing near me, that's when it's wrong. So just to be clear. Speaking of underappreciated, Kadeem Hardison is a very underappreciated actor in my opinion. I feel like he should have been way bigger than what he was. I mean, he was pretty big at the time, but I feel like there should have been more of a transition for him to really be in some great blockbuster movies. And hopefully there still is a chance for him. Or maybe I don't know the backstory, maybe he decided himself to step away. Maybe he pulled a Dave Chappelle and said, hey, this ain't what I want to do right now, I'm going to take a break. I'll have to Google that. He at least deserves an Unsung episode, or Unsung, I believe Unsung does acting episodes as well. I think it's Unsung Hollywood. I had to take a break from watching Unsung, the regular ones, because some of them were really depressing, like all the drugs and the death. It's just like, it's like you got to be in the right mood to watch Unsung. It's rarely a happy ending. The acting from everyone involved was really on point. For that matter. Did you notice that for the people who have already seen the movie, the crazy lady in the gas station is the same woman from The People Under the Stairs, and she was also in Twin Peaks. Also, as I was watching it, the character of Dr. Zico, I'll say Zico, he looked familiar to me and I couldn't place where I saw him before. And then after I finished watching the movie, I looked it up and he is the same guy from The Serpent and the Rainbow, if you've seen The Serpent and the Rainbow. The soundtrack on this was really great as well. There was some songs on there from artists I completely forgot about, like they had Boyfriend from Michelle Indegocello. I don't know if you remember her, but she was a really striking, beautiful black woman with no hair, and she played the bass guitar. And when you think about it, she could have, if Black Panther came out back then, she could have been one of the Dura Milaje easily. But I wonder what happened to her. I know, or if I recall correctly, she got to play with Prince. So I wonder if she ended up touring with him, because I also know that he had an affinity for female musicians. So that might be where she went to. But if you have never heard of her, look that song up. It's called Boyfriend by Michelle, and it's Michelle with an M, Indegocello. I can't spell that out for you, but I'm sure if you start typing Michelle into YouTube, her video will pop up because she's the only Michelle. Well, there's a Michelle, but it's spelled differently. It's M-I instead of M-E. For Michelle, Indegocello is M-E. I know you didn't ask me on that, but I'm telling you anyways. I've been doing a lot of tangents lately. You'll have to get used to that. I stopped taking my ADHD medicine because there's too many side effects. I do not advise anyone to do that without the direction of their doctor. I'm just telling you this so that you understand why my videos are a little bit different than they usually are. So, with that being said, I highly recommend this movie. I believe it was on, I can't remember where I watched it on. It might have been, I can't remember whether I watched it on Vudu or on Amazon Video. I'm pretty sure it was Vudu, I could be mistaken. But definitely check it out. This is a classic black horror movie. It goes well with Blacula in my opinion, but like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. So check it out for yourself. If you have already checked it out for yourself, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Bye.
Undead.